Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto and Kushina destroy Konoha. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. Naruto slowly opened his eyes. He found himself stretched out on the couch inside the Cage's office. Hinata was by his side, looking just as worn out as he was. The Emperor rose to a seated position. How long was I out? Almost 3 days. It's early evening, Hinata replied. You should take it easy, Naruto. You're still exhausted. I know. My reserves are at least half full, so I should be okay. What's been happening? Hinata sat down next to him. After the battle, I sent back word to the west that we had won. Ryuji and Haruka had ordered all Pakara merchants in the area to deliver food and aid to Suna. The Pakara merchant house has been busy around the clock. Remind me to send a thank you note to the Shinzens, Naruto replied. Anything else? Gaara's placed all of Suna under martial law, Kurama said as she entered the office, followed by Gaara, Shikamaru and the Sand siblings. Glad to see you're awake, Kit. Hinata has been by your side for the past couple of days. I noticed, Naruto replied. The others? The Jinchuriki? All are alive and accounted for, Shikamaru replied. Obito is under heavy guard around the clock. Congratulations, Namikaze. You have won a great victory. Naruto shook his head. No, we all did. I can't take the credit. We all fought long and hard, and against a powerful enemy. He stood up. Hinata had his cage-style hat in his hands. He graciously accepted it and placed the hat over his head. Gaara stepped up and extended his hand. Lord Namikaze. Congratulations. Naruto shook it. Same to you, Lord Cage. He looked at his clothes. Is there a place where I can clean myself up? I can't go out looking like this in front of my people. Tamari, show the Emperor our guest quarters, he said. Of course, Gaara. To Naruto, she said, follow me. Inside of the guest bedroom, Naruto, naked from the waist up, sat on the edge of the bed, fresh and clean from the shower while Hinata conducted an impromptu physical on her husband. Hinata knew every part of Naruto's body both figuratively and literally, which is why she had become his unofficial physician. Byakugan activated. Hinata checked Naruto's body for any and all internal injuries. Naruto's body had a myriad of cuts, scrapes and bruises. Even though Kurama was no longer his tenant, he still had the healing factor, a parting gift from the Nine Tails, which came in pretty handy, and still proved to be useful even now. Despite being the Emperor of the West, he was a hands-on type of ruler, which earned him the respect and admiration of his council, his subordinates and subjects. The battle with Itachi and Obito had taken a lot out of him, and he would not be ready to travel for a couple of days, which meant that he would have to wait until his chakra reserves were back to full capacity. Shikamaru, Nara and Tamari were going over the reports following the battle. Half of Suna is wrecked from the battle, but it's nothing that we can't overcome, Tamari said. Casualties? Naruto asked. Shikamaru looked over the reports. 0 dead, over 1,000 wounded from the Imperial forces. 0 dead from Suna, about 500 wounded. The hospital here was full to capacity, so Matsuri ended up using those buildings which survived the battle as triage centers for the extra wounded. The Suna and Imperial medics are working in 12-hour shifts to make sure that the injured are treated and taken care of. Medical supplies? Naruto asked, wincing slightly as Hinata poked a sore spot on his arm. Not a problem, seeing as we have a nice little surplus on reserve, Hinata replied as Naruto winced slightly. Did that hurt? A little, but I've been through worse, Naruto said. To Shikamaru, he asked, how you and your teammates holding up? Bit troublesome, but we'll live, Chief, the shadow user replied. I've read the reports on the battle, and I am glad to say that all that training under Okajima has paid off, Naruto said. Both your team and Cell 9 have gone beyond the call of duty, and you both will be recognized for your actions in not only saving Suna, but also stopping the Akatsuki and more importantly, thwarting a 4th shinobi war. Thanks, Shikamaru deadpanned. The both of you are dismissed, Hinata said. Once Shikamaru and Tamari were gone, Hinata deactivated her Byakugan and continued to inspect her husband, stopping to retrieve a small canister of healing salve and rubbing it all over the various bruises. Your injuries could have been a whole lot worse, she said. Given who my opponents were, I'm not surprised, Naruto replied. I faced down 2 Uchiha. One's dead, and the other will be executed once we return home. He turned his head in order to look at his wife. I thought that medics were to stay away from the battle. I'm not like any medic nin, Hinata replied. I am the Empress Consort of the Western Empire. But most important of all, I am your wife, and I fight by your side. Seeing as how you can seal my chakra with your gentle fist, as well as causing untold levels of pain on my body, I know better not to disagree with you, Naruto deadpanned. Hinata smiled. Smart move, she said, pecking him on the nose. There, done. She closed the jar of salve and placed it back inside her pouch. Nothing broken, thankfully. Naruto nodded as he finished getting dressed. The knock on the door came as Naruto finished dressing up in his battle uniform, the mesh shirt, black pants and ninja sandals. The black flak vest was partially covered by the black haori with the red flame pattern on the tail ends, the 4 symbols seal on his back in red. Whenever he was leading into battle, his hair was styled in spikes, similar as to how his father would usually wear it, rather than being combed back. He wore no Hite 8, but reached for his cage-style hat instead. Hinata turned to the door. Come in. The door opened and in walked a battered Fu. Chief, Lady Hinata, what is it, Fu? Naruto asked, turning around. I received word from the Pakara outpost at the Wind-Fire border. Konoha shinobi are on the way here, Fu reported. Naruto looked at Hinata, whose expression mirrored that of his own. They must have heard about the Akatsuki invading and want to try and get back on Gaara's good side, Naruto surmised. Too bad the battle's over. Turning back to Fu, he asked, how many are coming? At least 200 Junin. We managed to identify some of them who are coming. Both of your former senseis and cells have been identified. The others are Asuma Sarutobi, Maida Guy, and Yamato. The Godem and Jiraiya are leading the mission personally. We put their time of arrival at least 4 days from now. That caused Naruto to pause. Once again, the Emperor looked at his wife. Looks like playtime is officially over, Naruto said. Hinata nodded. I agree. It's time to reveal ourselves to our former village, she said. No more hiding. To Fu she said, you're dismissed. Fu nodded and returned to the imperial consulate in the village. 4 days later, the city gates had been blown off, the city walls had cracks, crevasses and holes. Bodies of Zetsu clones littered the area surrounding the city gates as Tsunade and the Konoha envoy approached the gates. The Konoha ninja identified the Suna ninja by their style of flak vests. Squads of Suna Junin and Imperial troops were hard at work rounding up the bodies and burning them in several giant pyres. The Konoha envoy passed several of them as they approached the gates. Pakara merchants led their caravans into and out of the city, dropping off food and aid. What surprised Tsunade and the others was as they approached the city walls, they noticed the number of tents located on one side of the city gates, the Imperial forces having made camp, since Suna was too small for the Imperial forces to contain. They could hear the laughter and the music coming from the camp, as the Imperial soldiers recounted their heroic feats of not only themselves, but of their emperor, the Empress Consort, the Case Cage, and of the Suna ninja, of which the Imperial forces have grown to respect. Tsunade frowned. From what Jiraiya had told her, it took them nearly a week to reach the west by boat, and half that time by airship. And yet, here were Imperial shinobi in and around Suna. Jiraiya's expression matched that of his former teammate as he looked at the number of Imperial shinobi and samurai. The spy network reported that with the number of white Zetsu clones combined with the 6 paths of pain and the remaining members of the Akatsuki participating in this battle, Suna's chances of coming out of this alive were nil. The number of Imperial forces here could mean one thing, Jiraiya said as they approached the gates. Either the Emperor or someone on his side is highly skilled in time-space ninjutsu. Tsunade nodded. It seems that way, she said. With the deaths of Kaharu and Hanmura, their power and influence had returned to Tsunade. The 2 elders had always supported the civilian side of the council, and with the both of them gone, the influence civilian side of the council once had was now all but crippled. I don't care about these people, Sasuke snarled. Dressed in his Enbu uniform, Chikudo slung behind his back. Itachi is here, and I don't care who stands in my way. I want Itachi's head on a stake. Had Sasuke and the others were paying attention, they would have noticed a burning pyre that was being tended to by the Imperial troops. Had Sasuke been paying attention, they would have seen the bodies of Kazuku, Konan, Nagato. As his body was recovered from a megacure, the 6 paths, Kisame Hoshigaki and Itachi Uchiha being fed to the flames. Asuma Sarutobi approached the gates of the village with apprehension. The reason being was that his former students were working with the Suna guards at the gate, signing in the Pakara caravans as they entered the village. The Ino Shika Cho looked just as worn out and battered from the war, but alert and ready for anything. Naruto had summoned both their team and Cell Guy into a private meeting, warning them of Konoha's impending arrival earlier that day, and told them that Konoha would soon be arriving on Suna's doorstep and of his and Hinata's plans to reveal themselves to their former village. He also told them that if they did not wish to see the impending fight, then they can remain inside the cage tower until the matter is concluded. Cell 9 chose to remain inside, as Neji, Tenten and Rock Lee refused to have any further dealings with Guy. That and both Neji and Rock Lee were still wounded, and since the triage centers were full to capacity, Gaara allowed the both of them to recover inside his home. For Asuma, it had been 2 years since the last time he had seen his former cell. He believed in Konoha, and that in order for Konoha to be recognized as the strongest of the shinobi villages, then sacrifices must be made. That was why he had supported the banishment of Uzumaki and the CRA, but Konoha's actions had the opposite effect, as it barely held on as one of the 5 strongest villages. Ino saw the approaching Konoha shinobi. "Hold it, state your business." She trailed off when he saw Asuma. "Oh, it's you, Captain Sarutobi." Asuma winced. His former cell had never forgave him. "Still hasn't from the look of things. What are you doing here?" Ino demanded. "Last time I checked, Suna and Konoha are on bad terms. Regarding that incident," she said, glaring daggers at Sasuke. "You're not welcome here in Suna. Go home." Tsunade frowned at the blatant disrespect her former student was showing. "We came out of good faith. We came to see Gaara and see if he needs help in repelling the Akatsuki." "There's no need for that, Lady Hokage," Tamari replied as she appeared, looking just as haggard as the Ino Shikacho. "The battle is over. Has been for the past 2 days." Tsunade blinked. "So, Suna still stands," the Wind Mistress replied. "If it wasn't for the Emperor and his imperial forces, we would have been overrun. Sorry you came this way, Senju, but Konoha is still not welcome here. Take your ninja and go." "Wait," Sasuke stepped forward. "Where is Itachi? Was he here?" he demanded. "He was," Tamari replied. "The Emperor was fighting him." Without another word, Sasuke stormed forward, ignoring the calls from Tsunade and the others. Sighing, Tsunade turned to Tamari. "Can you take us to the cage so we can get a report on what has happened here?" Tamari sighed. "Fine, just don't alienate the Imperial troops here." Asuma gave one longing look at his former cell, who was back at work with signing in Pakara merchants, ignoring him completely. His actions in the past regarding Ino and the Restoration Act had all but destroyed the relationship he once had with them as their sensei. Kurenai placed one reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Come on, Asuma. They made their choice," she said in a soothing tone. Asuma sighed. "I know. Damn it," he cursed as he followed Kurenai into the village. Imperial forces patrolled the streets with Suna shinobi as Tsunade and the others made their way towards the cage tower. Carts filled with dead Zetsu clones were being hauled off to be incinerated by disposal units. "What the hell happened here?" Kakashi asked. "It started with Sasori and Deidara attempting to kidnap Gaara," Tamari began. "But the Emperor and his wife were here on an inspection tour of the Imperial Consulate, and they helped in killing both Akatsuki members. It was then revealed as Deidara lay dying by the Empress Consort's hands that the Akatsuki planned on invading Suna to gain a foothold. 100,000 Zetsu clones, created by the Akatsuki as their main attack force, plus their remaining members against Suna's shinobi forces, with 4 battalions and 3 special forces units of the Imperial Defense Forces, with the Emperor and Empress Consort leading them alongside my brother. Our combined numbers were 80,000 to their 100,000. 100,000? That's nuts," Kiba exclaimed. "You guys were outnumbered 2 to 1. Tamari smiled. "True, but the Emperor and his wife has fought against twice that number when they was uniting the West. I heard that he could bring about victory from defeat. Those rumors turned out to be very true. Those 100,000 clones turned out to be a major disadvantage when in close quarters. It's not entirely impossible for a smaller force to defeat a much larger force," Shino noted. "Minato Namikaze decimated Iwa's ninja force by himself in the last Shinobi War. And his son just blew his kill record out of the water, Temari thought. She had heard rumors of the Hirishin in action from Iwa ninja. Seeing it in action, on the other hand, was a completely different story. It was beautiful, but at the same time, very deadly. How did the Emperor manage to marshal such a force in such a small amount of time? Jiraiya asked. The Emperor is a master of time-space jutsu, Temari replied, thus confirming both of the Sannin. To be able to transport 4 battalions of shinobi and samurai from one continent to another has to be hell on one's chakra reserves. Reaching the town square, the area was clear of the Zetsu clones. On the opposite end of the square, Tsunade saw him. The Emperor of the Western Empire. The man radiated authority and was dressed in all black flak vest, pants and sandals. The sleeveless haori was also black, but had a red flame pattern on the tail ends and a second symbol which Tsunade could not see clearly. His face was concealed by the black cage-style hat he wore on his head. The Godem Hokage nudged Jiraiya. Is that him? Jiraiya nodded. That's him, all right. The Emperor of the Unified West. Looks like he's heading elsewhere. He summoned Yamato. The Mokouten-wielding Anbu commander was at Jiraiya's side in an instant. Sir? Follow the Emperor, Jiraiya ordered. Report anything out of the ordinary to myself or Tsunade. Yamato nodded and departed from the group. Tsunade gave the order to the others to help out in any way they could while she and Jiraiya went inside to talk to Gaara and the Sand siblings. With Yamato, the Imperial Consulate was a walled compound 2 blocks away from the Case Tower. As with the rest of Suna, the compound was damaged in the fighting, but was still livable. The imperial representative was Hikaru Shinto, Rose Shinto's uncle and an accomplished shinobi. When the invasion came, he fought alongside his emperor and empress consort, and was wounded during the fight between Hidan and Kazuku. Before Hidan could perform his ritual, it was Sadako Asahina who had made the save as she incinerated the bloodthirsty Jashinist priest ninja, reducing him to ash. The imperial consulate was also the place where the Jinchuriki were resting up following the Battle of the Sand. The Jinchuriki, Yugito ni, Killer Bee, Utakata, Roshi, Han and Fu, had fought valiantly in the battle which lasted for 4 hours. Ivana had gotten in on the action, fighting at his brother's side. Yamato watched from a safe distance as the emperor entered the imperial consulate. The gates were guarded by imperial guards. Yamato saw that the building next door to the complex was not guarded, which was perfect enough for him to sneak in. The building itself was 3 stories tall, but tall enough for him to look over the compound walls. Yamato took notice of a gaping hole in the wall which would give him a perfect view of the inside of the consulate's courtyard. The building itself was unguarded, allowing Yamato easy access. Yamato made his way to the 3rd floor and found the jagged hole overlooking the consulate. What he saw surprised him. Jiraiya and the Godem had suspected that the Empire had taken the Jinchuriki, he thought. Look like they were right. I see Killer Bee, Yugito, Utakata, Fu and those 2 from Iwa. But no Uzumaki. And who is the red-headed woman with them? He watched as the Emperor emerged from the consulate. Almost immediately, the Jinchuriki and the red-headed woman stood before the Emperor and went down on one knee. Money cannot buy the honor which you all have earned through your actions during this conflict. Yamato had heard the Emperor say to the Jinchuriki and the mystery redhead. Your actions here in the past several days will forever be remembered, as you have brought much credit upon yourselves and on the unified Western Empire. As Emperor of the Imperial Nation, I declare you all national treasures of the Empire. Sir, Kurama and the Jinchuriki barked out in unison. Having seen enough, Yamato silently left the scene, unaware that he had tripped a hidden seal alerting the Emperor to his presence. In the consulate, Naruto merely smiled. With Kurenai and Cell 9. When Kiba and Shino had told Kurenai about their visit to Kimin, Kurenai was especially concerned about the description of the Empress consort. So when they passed a triage center, curiosity had gotten the better of the trio and they walked inside. Several rows of cots were lined up throughout the room, each of them containing either an injured shinobi or samurai as Suna medic nins. Imperial medic nins and combat surgeons worked to make sure that they were comfortable. The former cell identified Matsuri instantly, as she was talking with several other Suna medics. And Kurenai saw her. It had been 6 years, but she recognized her former pupil in an instant. Her hair was cut short, but it was in a much different style than she wore as a genin under her command. Kiba saw that she had filled out in all the right places and was trying his hardest not to gawk, or drool, at his one-time crush. Kurenai saw that she was a medic nin, and her attire had backed that claim, a black shinobi shozoku with a fishnet undershirt, black junin flak vest. A satchel of medical supplies was strapped to the small of her back along with a pair of curved knives. Kurenai deduced that they were not from the east, but despite the exotic look to them, they were very deadly. She was talking with several imperial medics, an air of authority around her. Kurenai felt happy, but at the same time betrayed when Hinata had ran off with Naruto when the banishment orders had came down from the Godem. In the east, she was a wanted ninja, and a ranked missing nin in the bingo book. But she was an imperial medic ninja, and under the protection of the unified Western Empire. Need help with anything? A passing combat medic asked. Are you injured? Kurenai quickly responded. No. Actually, I was wondering if I could speak with that woman over there, she said, pointing to Hinata. Sure, the combat medic replied before walking over to Hinata and whispering in her ear. Kurenai watched as Hinata turned and faced her. Hinata did not look the least bit shocked upon seeing her former sensei and teammates again. Thanking the combat medic, Hinata walked over to her former cell. With a flick of her head, she gestured that she wanted to speak with them outside. Hinata led her former sensei and her former cell out into the Sunanite. Stopping once they were outside, Hinata turned and faced Kurenai and the two men, and Akamaru. Isn't this something? Hinata said. Cell 8, together again. Hinata. Kurenai began, not knowing whether to either be disappointed or proud of her former student. You look good. Real good, Kiba seconded. You can drop the act, Kurenai, Hinata said, folding her arms across her chest. Kurenai frowned. This reunion had just went south quick. That's Kurenai-sensei to you, Hinata, she snapped. No, because seeing as how you denounced me when I left Konoha with Naruto, I don't see you as my sensei anymore, Hinata rebuked. What I want to know is this. Why did you denounce me? Kurenai sighed. She turned away, as she could not look Hinata in the face. Hinata. What you did to me that day. What you did to all of us. I saw it as a betrayal. Even after I warned you about Uzumaki, that he was nothing but a fox in human skin, you still ran off, abandoned the village when he was banished. When I found out what you did, I saw it as a betrayal. She turned back to face her former student. So, yes. Yes, I denounced you. Judging by your tone, you still stand by your decision, Hinata noted. She did not sound surprised. Did you support the Godaim's decree that Naruto should be banished? I did, Kurenai replied firmly. We all did. We still believe in that the Godem and the council did the right thing, Hinata. Not everyone, Yuhi, Hinata said. My father and my sister. The Ino Shikacho and their children. My cousin and his teammates. They honored the Yondaimi's request, something that you, Asuma and the others should have done. Kurenai's eyes narrowed. Just how much did Hinata know? Realization then crept across her face as she said, it was you, wasn't it? You talked the emperor into allowing the clan's asylum. The former heiress nodded before turning to both Kiba and Shino. I can tell that the both of you think that my husband is a demon in human flesh, she continued. But he is not. You married him? Kiba exclaimed. You married the demon, Hinata? How could you? Why not? Hinata replied. You of all people know I've always admired him back when we were genin. We've been married for 3 years now. Naruto is not the Nine Tails in human form. He is the Jinchuriki, the prison, warden and cell. The cup, but not the water. I met the fox personally and I can honestly say that she is very polite for a Biju. Kurenai blinked. She? The fox is female? Did you ever wondered why I decided to run when Tsunade banished him? Hinata asked. No, I guess I'll come clean and tell you. The clan elders planned on branding me with that damned seal, so my father sent me away with Naruto for my own safety. It was his own way of saying sorry for being such an asshole to me for the past couple of years, as well as protecting me. Out of all the clans in the Leaf, only my father, and the Ino Shikacho honored the Yondaimi's final request, and did not see Naruto as a demon. What does that have to do with anything? Kiba demanded. Everything, Hinata replied. When Naruto was banished, Tsunade also reversed Sarutobi's law, as I was there that day. Naruto had to be out of Konoha by the end of the day, and out of Fire Country by the end of the week. But she didn't say anything about his parents, didn't she? What about that demon? Kiba retorted. Hinata meanly smiled. Naruto is not a no-named orphan like most of the village think. Hinata. You're on dangerous ground, Kurenai warned. Ever notice how Jinchuriki are related to people in positions of power? Hinata continued. Gaara's father was the previous Cage. Killer Bee's brother was the former Raikage. Naruto is no different. Tsunade and the council, in their so-called infinite wisdom, banished the son of the Yellow Flash and his wife, the Red Death. Hinata, Kurenai shouted. That is a sulfur monosulfide class secret. They can't know about that. Well, it's a good thing that I'm not under Konoha's authority now, isn't it? Hinata retorted. Yes, Naruto is the legitimate son of Minato Namikaze and his wife, Kushina Uzumaki, who was the Jinchuriki to the Nine Tails at the time. Tsunade and Jiraiya tried to destroy all proof of his existence, but my husband is not known as the unpredictable ninja for nothing. The proof was hidden inside the forbidden scroll of sealing, which was easy for him to steal a second time. Kurenai, on the other hand, was fuming. She couldn't touch Hinata, as she was not under Konoha's command. The second was that she was an unknown. People change in 6 years, and judging by the flak vest she wore, Hinata was an experienced Junin and a highly skilled medic nin. And she had spent time in the West. If only Kurenai knew. But the story gets even more interesting, Hinata continued. Not only Naruto was banished on trumped-up charges, but Tsunade and Jiraiya spearheaded the entire thing. Betrayed by his own godparents. But there's more. Naruto's father was Jiraiya's star student in the sealing arts. Kushina was a surrogate daughter to Tsunade. Naruto has connections to the Senju clan through Hashirama's wife, Mito Uzumaki, who was the first Jinchuriki to the Nine Tails. It was Shino who connected the dots, as he studied Konoha's history. Mito Uzumaki married Hashirama Senju in order to bring the families closer into an alliance. Tsunade Senju is her granddaughter. From what Tsunade had confirmed, Kushina Uzumaki is her niece. His eyes widened as what he was about to say died on his lips. Hinata finished it for him. Yes, Shino. Tsunade banished her great-nephew. Enough, Kurenai shouted, now furious over the fact that Hinata had broken several of Konoha's darkest secrets. Enough, Hinata. Or what, Kurenai? Hinata shot back, not backing down from her former sensei. You're still in the bingo book for deserting Konoha, the Genjutsu mistress replied, preparing to strike. And you've broken the laws regarding Uzumaki's lineage. I wanted to try and reconcile with you, but you leave me no choice. Shinra. Tensai. Crunch. Kiba looked around. What the hell was that? Kiba half-shouted, looking around. More than likely, the Uchiha pissing off the Emperor, Hinata replied casually. And he is not as forgiving as most people think. Kurenai's eyes went wide like dinner plates. That stupid boy, she shouted, her problems with Hinata forgotten. Kiba, Shino, on me, we got to stop Sasuke. As Cell 8 bolted off to stop Sasuke from igniting a war between the Empire and the Leaf, Hinata merely smiled. So, it begins, she thought. With Kakashi, Asuma and Guy. While Kurenai had a reunion of her own, Kakashi decided to check out the town. Asuma and Guy, having given up on trying to find his former students, decided to tag along. Sasuke had ran on ahead in order to confront the Emperor, and given the fact that the Emperor and his wife were highly skilled warriors who could kill his former student in more ways than he could out, Sasuke could end up bringing a war onto Konoha's doorstep. While looking for Sasuke, they entered a section of Suna in which the presence of Imperial troops was more heavy than what they usually see. It soon became clear why to the trio of Junin. Before long, they were stopped by 3 Imperial shinobi. Kakashi saw that they were high Junin level, which could mean trouble for them. Whoa, stop right there, the senior Imperial Junin said as several more shinobi kept their distance, but was more than ready to swarm the trio just in case. This is a restricted area, you can't pass here. We're from Konohagakure, Asuma replied, using diplomacy. We're here to offer any form of assistance if needed. Thanks for the offer, the Imperial Junin replied, but we got everything covered here. You're guarding something, Asuma said. Or rather, someone. You're smarter than you look, the Imperial Junin replied. We got a survivor from the Akatsuki, the leader himself, under guard. Given as to what he can do, the chief and his wife aren't taking any chances. Guy's a sulfur monosulfide class threat. That caught the Konoha trio's attention. The Empire had captured the head of the Akatsuki? Just how powerful is the Emperor, as he was able to do what Konoha and the rest of the elemental countries had failed to do, which was destroy the Akatsuki? I take it he didn't surrender willingly, Kakashi said. Nope. One of the chief's senior advisors had the honor of taking him down, the Imperial Junin said. The lady had the honor of killing the mad bomber from Iwa earlier, while the chief took out that one member with the real freaky red eyes. Now that I think about it, the Akatsuki head's eye was the same as the other guy's. Now that caught the trio's attention. The leader of the Akatsuki had the Sharingan? Feeling a sense of dread in his gut, Kakashi asked the question that was on his mind. What is the leader's name? He asked. The Imperial Junin turned to one of his comrades. Hey, Ko, what's that guy's name? The one that Lady Kurama captured? He asked. The one named Ko replied, it's Uchiha. His name is Obito Uchiha. Kakashi's eye went wide as he looked like had been given the 1,000 years of death. Even Asuma and Guy was concerned. Obito, who had thought to have died in the last shinobi war, was the head of the Akatsuki? No, it can't be. Obito's dead. Kakashi's mind screamed. What are his crimes? Asuma asked, pushing down his emotions. Crimes against the imperial nation and her allies, the Imperial Junin said, and crimes against the Emperor of the Western Empire. Both carry an instant death sentence. What crimes against the Emperor? Asuma asked. The murder of his parents, the Imperial Junin replied. We need to confirm that Obito Uchiha is indeed the head of the Akatsuki so we can file it in our reports to the Hokage and the Konoha Council, Asuma said. Can you take us to him? We can, the Imperial Junin replied, but this is your first and only warning. If you try to aid and abet the Uchiha in any shape, form or fashion, you three will be leaving Suna in a box. The Konoha trio nodded and they were led, under heavy guard, to where Obito was being held. In %, the building in which housed the fallen Uchiha belonged to a Suna merchant who had evacuated the village along with the rest of the Suna civilians. A one-story storage shed, it was now an impromptu jail cell which held one of the most dangerous men in the elemental countries. Outside the house, a squad of Imperial shinobi, members of Zabuza's Demon Brigade, stood guard, weapons drawn, watching the Konoha shinobi like a hawk. Inside the single room, were 4 more shinobi, also of the Demon Brigade. And seated in the center of the room, was the former teammate of Kakashi Hitaki, the now former leader of the Akatsuki, Obito Uchiha. The broken man was seated in a chair. The Rinnegan which he had stolen from Nagato before invading Konoha was removed from his left eye, albeit forcibly at the hands of Kurama. Chakra suppression cuffs were on his hands and even his legs. A series of seals were on his back, which had sealed off his chakra, drained him of his strength and rendered his Sharingan unusable. Overkill, yes, but the Emperor was not one to take any chances. Obito was alone with his thoughts, his remaining eye closed when he heard someone call out his name. Obito? Obito, is that you? Now there is a voice I haven't heard in years, Obito said as opened his eye. Kakashi, Asuma and Guy stood before him. Kakashi Hitaki. Asuma Sarutobi. Meta Guy. So it's true, Guy said. We all thought you were dead. Reports of my death were exaggerated, to say the least, Obito replied. Of course, that brat of an emperor will soon rectify that little matter soon. Obito. Why? Kakashi asked. Why are you the leader of the Akatsuki? Why didn't you come back home? How did you survive with half of your body being crushed? I survived because of one man who was thought to have died, Obito replied. I survived because of Madara Uchiha. Madara? Asuma repeated. He should have died years ago. He's even older than Onoki. Since I have a death sentence on my head, I might as well tell you the story, Obito said calmly. And he told them of how Madara survived all these years using Hashirama Senju's DNA and had awakened the Rinnegan, of which he had implanted into Nagato without him knowing, and replaced his eyes with a spare Sharingan. He told them that through the demonic Outer Path statue, which had kept him alive for all this time, that he created a living clone of the first Hokage, of which was now destroyed by the Emperor having sent his forces to level his hideout, and that the Emperor had resealed the demonic statue and banished it from this plane. I acted at his behest, Obito concluded. And I did it willingly, per to his final wishes. Why? Kakashi demanded, while Guy muttered something about, unyouthful. I wanted to return to Konoha at first, Obito said. But Madara said that would be impossible, as I owed him my life. The crushed parts of my body were reconstructed with Hashirama's cells. While I was recovering and learning how to use my new limbs, I found out through Zetsu that both you and Rin were being attacked by Mist Shinobi. I came to the site, and watched as you shoved a Chidori into Rin's chest. Kakashi winced. You killed Rin, Obito deadpanned. And I killed the Kiri Shinobi when they tried to take her body. It was then, I realized that what Madara was telling me was indeed true. Our reality is indeed worthless and it should be destroyed. In its place would be a new reality. One where there would be no war, no pain and no suffering. Madara told me about the Moon Eye plan. By retrieving the Biju and merging them with the demonic statue, the 10-tailed beast would be revived, with myself as its Jinchuriki. I would use the power of the 10 tails to reflect the Meginkyu onto the moon and place the world under an infinite Tsukiyomi. That fool Nagato truly believed that we were making a weapon powerful enough to force the elemental countries to make peace. You tried to make the world in your own image, Asuma said. By robbing it of its free will. Call it what you want, Sarutobi, Obito snapped. All I wanted was to end this world of lies. Sacrifices had been made. My clan, which I helped Itachi to destroy. Sensei and his wife. I still had the utmost respect for Minato, but he was so honorable to the end, even when I unleashed the 9 tails upon Konoha, as he sealed it inside his son. Asuma's eyes went wide. It was you. You caused the 9 tails to attack Konoha. All those people. The Yondaime and his wife. My mother, dead because of you. He was itching to kill the traitor himself. But now, it's over, Obito said, shoulders slumping. Madara will forever weep in the afterlife knowing that his plans will not take place. The Emperor of the West has retrieved the remaining Jinchuriki and offered them asylum within his empire. To be beaten by a little brat. We're done here, Asuma said to the Imperial Junin who had escorted the 3 of them here. I hope you die slowly, Uchiha, he snarled as he and the other 2 turned on their heels and began to walk to the door. Hitaki. Kakashi stopped in mid-step. He turned around. Come closer, Obito said. There's something else you need to know. Wary, Kakashi walked back to Obito, who motioned for him to come even closer so that he could whisper into Kakashi's ear. Kakashi complied, and Obito told him the final piece of information he had. Something which had rocked even Kakashi to the core. With that, Obito went silent. He would remain silent until the Emperor himself executed him. Upon being escorted out of Obito's impromptu cell, Kakashi had been whispering to himself, it can't be, impossible. What is it? Asuma demanded. What did Obito tell you? He told me the identity of the Emperor, Kakashi confirmed. The Emperor is Shinra. Tensai. Crunch. Asuma, Guy and Kakashi turned to the direction of the explosion. What the hell? Asuma wondered as they sped towards the source of the explosion. On the way, they ran into Kurenai and Cell 8. Kurenai said one thing which had them on edge. We have to stop Sasuke. He's fighting the Emperor now. Asuma nodded and they rushed off to stop the Uchiha from getting himself killed. As they ran to stop Sasuke, Obito's final words rang in Kakashi's mind. The Emperor is Minato Sensei's son, the student who you had forsaken. The Emperor is Naruto Uzumaki. With Tsunade, Sakura and Jiraiya. Flanked by Kankuro and Temari, the case-cage of Suna looked at his Konoha counterpart with great disdain. Both Sakura Haruno and Jiraiya were flanking the Godem Hokage. What are you doing here? He demanded. Last time I checked, we terminated the alliance with Konoha. We came to offer any assistance in any way, Tsunade explained. But from the look of things, you already have everything under control. Gaara nodded. The battle has been over for nearly a week. The Akatsuki has been completely destroyed. Its leader has been captured by the Empire and will be executed for his crimes. The elemental countries can now breathe a sigh of relief knowing that the Akatsuki is no more. Can we have a report on the battle? Jiraiya asked. One has been sent to the Fire Daimyo, Kankuro said. You should be getting a copy from him in a matter of days. You just did not show up because you wanted to join in on the battle, Gaara said. What do you want? To speak with the Emperor and try to smooth over some of the lies he has heard, Sakura said. some of which were spread by you and your village. Tsunade shot her pupil a nasty glare. Look. We came here to help out, to try and repair our alliance, she explained. It's clear that even without the Empire backing you, that Suna is on the fast track to usurping the Leaf as being the strongest of the villages, while Kazuhana's shinobi village will knock us off as one of the 5 main villages. So you want to try and get back on my good side, is that it? Gaara asked, just as Yamato entered the room. While Yamato spoke with the 2 Sannin and Sakura, Asuna Junin appeared via Shunshin and whispered into Gaara's own ear. While Gaara looked amused, Sakura and the 2 Sannin looked very angry. When were you going to tell us that the Empire had retrieved the Jinchuriki and used them to fight in this war? Tsunade demanded. Wasn't my place to say it, Gaara replied. The Emperor convinced them to fight and this was against the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki were looking for the power of the Jinchuriki, and the Emperor gave it to them, although they were on the receiving end of it. If the rest of those demons were here, Sakura began, then Uzumaki was here as well. Gaara's eyes narrowed. In the far corner, the gourd which carried Gaara's reserve sand shook slightly, right before the cork popped out. Senju, please get your student under control, or else the next words out of my mouth will be, sand coffin. Tsunade threw a glare to Sakura which told her to shut up. Gaara continued, yes, Uzumaki is here, but he is in the employ of the Western Empire, and thus, out of your jurisdiction. However, I would be more concerned about the leader of the Akatsuki which the Empire has captured. In fact, the Emperor has been privy to the identity of the Akatsuki chief for quite a while now. He leaned back in his chair. Tell me, does the name Obito Uchiha ring any bells? That got a reaction from Tsunade, but from more importantly, Jiraiya. Obito was Minato's student. We all thought that he had died in the last shinobi war. I thought that Nagato was the head of the Akatsuki? Gaara said. Far from it. The Empire's information network is very thorough, even more so than yours. However, I would be more concerned about Konoha's golden boy picking a fight with the Emperor. Realization crept across the Sannin's faces, just as Shinra, Tensai, Crunch, damn that Uchiha, Tsunade shouted, turning on her heels and bolting out of the room, Jiraiya and Sakura following her. Behind his desk, Gaara merely smiled. This is going to be one hell of a family reunion, he mused. Minutes earlier, at the Imperial Consulate, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze looked at Kurama and the assembled Jinchuriki that knelt before him. He could not be any more prouder of not only his forces, but of the Jinchuriki and the role they played in the destruction of the Akatsuki. Money cannot buy the honor which you all have earned here through your actions during this conflict. Naruto began, once again masking his voice. He also knew that Yamato was watching, as he had triggered the seals he had placed inside the neighboring building. Your actions here in the past several days will forever be remembered, as you have brought much credit upon yourselves and on the unified Western Empire. As Emperor of the Imperial Nation, I declare you all national treasures of the Empire. Sir, Kurama and the Jinchuriki barked out in unison. Had Yamato remained inside his hidey hole for another 15 seconds, he would have seen Sasuke Uchiha forced his way inside the Imperial Consulate. The Imperial soldiers inside drew their weapons, but the Emperor ordered them to stay their hand. Not really caring that the Emperor had the Jinchuriki, Sasuke stormed across the courtyard, Sharingan ablaze. Where is he? Where is he? Sasuke demanded. Naruto looked amused. You again, Uchiha? Where is my brother? Sasuke demanded. I know he was here. They said that he was fighting you. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. People say plenty of things. I could have either been fighting either your brother or his walking sushi plate of a partner. Maybe I was fighting the insane Jushinist and his miserly partner. You never know. This is your first and only warning, little man. Leave now or else I will not be held responsible for what happens if you refuse. Damn you! Sasuke shouted as he unsheathed his Chokouto. Lighting began to dance along the blade as Sasuke charged. Big mistake, Fu muttered as she and the other Jinchuriki quickly got out of the way. Naruto's eyes shimmered into the Rinnegan as he raised one hand. Shinra, this is going to hurt, muttered to himself. Tensai. Sasuke felt an invisible force lift him off his feet and sent him crashing through the compound wall before landing amongst the debris from the battle and from the remains of the compound wall. Naruto did not give him a chance to recover, as he hopped through the gaping hole in the wall and with an uppercut from hell to the jaw, propelled Sasuke into the air. As Sasuke fell back to the ground, Naruto kicked him hard in the chest. Only to find out that he had kicked a log in two. So he's finally learned something, Naruto thought as Sasuke appeared from behind, Chikuto in hand, ready to impale him. Smirking, Naruto executed the flash step. Derived from his father's signature Hiraishin, Naruto moved fast enough for him to leave an afterimage, of which Sasuke found out the hard way when his blade slashed through Naruto's afterimage. Flashing through several hand seals, Naruto unleashed his jutsu. Wind Release, Deadly Tempest. Having seen Temari's signature Kamitachi in action, Naruto had created a jutsu using Gaara's fan-wielding sister as his inspiration. The Deadly Tempest was an A-ranked jutsu which blasted the opponent with hurricane force winds. Depending on which type of element he was using at the time, the Deadly Tempest had several interesting effects. If he combined the jutsu with his fire affinity, then the person on the receiving end would suffer third-degree burns. The wind affinity was the opposite. It supercooled the air, making the person not only numb, but it slowly drained their chakra. Sasuke was hit with the latter. The powerful winds crashed into the Uchiha prince's body, once again lifting him up into the air and sending him into the general direction of Suna's village square. Sasuke cursing the emperor as he was sent flying. The last Uchiha crashed into the town square, just as Tsunade, Jiraiya, Yamato and Sakura came charging out of the cage tower, while Kakashi, Asuma and Guy emerged from a side street, following their conversation with Obito Uchiha. And Cell 8 came from around the corner following their confrontation with Hinata. Naruto calmly walked into the square as Sasuke tried to get back to a vertical base. Meanwhile, the Imperial forces had blocked off the Konoha shinobi's escape route, effectively separating the Sannin, the Junin and the remnants of Konoha 11 from the majority of the Konoha Junin that were still outside of Suna, creating an impromptu arena. Silly little Uchiha who thinks he is a match for me, Naruto mused. Sasuke coughed up a wad of blood and spit it out. Shut up, he snarled. Where is Itachi? Itachi. So your brother has a name, Naruto said, one hand going into his pocket. He pulled out the item he knew that would set Sasuke over the edge and tossed it to his former teammate, where it landed at his feet. Sasuke looked down and his eyes went wide. With a trembling hand, he reached down and picked up the item. An item he recognized instantly, as it had something to do with his brother. The item in question was Itachi's Akatsuki ring. Correction. He had a name, Naruto said. Sasuke began to tremble as the full totality of what the Emperor was saying had struck him with full force. In case you failed to realize, Uchiha, Naruto continued, your brother is dead. His body, along with what remains of the Akatsuki, is being burned outside of the village walls. Sasuke looked at the ring. Then back at the Emperor. The Meginkyu began to spin rapidly as the cursed seal reactivated, thus breaking through the seals Jiraiya had placed on him years earlier that was designed to nullify the cursed seal's influence. Itachi was dead. The Emperor did the one thing that he could not, which was to kill him. His family would be unavenged. He was indeed, albeit he did not know of Obito's existence, the last Uchiha. Flame-like patterns began to appear on Sasuke as the cursed seal began to make him stronger. Black flame patterns began to appear, spreading from Sasuke's shoulder, to one side of his face and down his arm, ending at his hand, which was currently charging a second Chidori. Oops, Naruto taunted. Did I say something wrong? You bastard. Sasuke bellowed as he charged, the now freed cursed seal giving him a boost in speed. Die, Sasuke, no. Jiraiya and Tsunade shouted. Instead of using the flash step, Naruto spun to the side, the cage-style hat falling off his head as Sasuke passed him, missing where his head was at just moments earlier, and prepared his own counterattack. One that anyone who knew the Yondaime recognized almost instantly. Sasuke, don't, Kakashi shouted, just as Sasuke spun to face the Emperor. The Emperor is. The melon-sized orb of concentrated chakra had obliterated Sasuke's Enbu armor, leaving him naked from the waist up, and had once again sent him flying. The Uchiha prince landed on his back. The mind-numbing effects of sustaining the deadly tempest earlier had sapped the tainted chakra from Orochimaru's cursed seal, causing the black flames to dissipate off of Sasuke's body. You could literally hear a pin drop as Naruto rose to his full height, Hinata moving to his side. To those from Konoha who knew Minato Namikaze, it was as if he was standing before them, save that he was now a redhead and he wore a haori instead of a trench coat. But he was anything but. Sasuke. Sakura shouted, seeing her husband to be being sledgehammered back by her former teammate. The pink head turned her attention towards Naruto. Instantly, she saw red. Ungloved hand balled into a fist, she let out a feral scream and charged at Naruto. Sakura, no! Tsunade shouted, holding her student back. Let me go, Tsunade. Sakura shouted, look what he did to Sasuke. Rinnegan activated. Naruto looked at the gathered Konoha shinobi. His earlier visit to Konoha showed that they were not under Danzu's genjutsu, meaning that their hatred for them was indeed genuine. Which was good in Naruto's case, meaning that the gloves were now off. Naruto deactivated the Rinnegan. Well, isn't this the reunion, he said, looking at his former teammates. Although we are now on opposite sides. Tossing a glance to his wife, he said, and here, I thought they would be happy to see us. Hinata gave him a dry grin. I think not, she said. From his place on the ground, Sasuke managed to get out. Dobi. The Emperor. You? It's true, Kakashi said, raising his Hite 8, exposing the Sharingan. Naruto saw that it was the Meginkyu. Obito confirmed it. Uzumaki is the Emperor of the West. It was then that the Sannin and the shinobi who had went to the West began to connect the dots, as the full totality of what was now revealed to them. Naruto Uzumaki was the descendant of the Six Paths Sage. Naruto Uzumaki wielded the Rinnegan. Naruto Uzumaki was the Emperor of the Western Empire. Tsunade's eyes narrowed, as did Jiraiya's. Up until Jiraiya's return from the Western Empire, the West was the last place that Naruto would have ended up in. Now, he was back, and seeing as how they screwed him over, was an even bigger threat to Konoha than Orochimaru, Kumo and Iwa combined. How did a dead last like you become the Emperor of the West? Asuma demanded. You can thank your father and those two idiots, Naruto said, referring to Jiraiya and Tsunade. Your father tried to stunt my growth. When that failed, Tsunade and Jiraiya banished me, and tried to kill me by sending Hunter Ninja after Hinata and myself. He pulled out a Hiraishin kunai and begun to spin it from the ring on one finger. Unlike his father's tri-bladed Hiraishin kunai, these were of Naruto's design. Black carbon steel, with the Hiraishin seals carved onto the blade itself. Think Lee Christmas throwing kunai. I should have had you executed, Tsunade seethed. Damn it, I should have killed you the moment that you arrived with Jiraiya. Now that's no way to treat your godson. Or rather, your great-nephew, Naruto replied. How would my parents think about the both of you breaking your promise to look after me after they died? If you want the true culprit of the Nine Tails attack on Konoha, it's Obito himself. Besides, you kill me, the Nine Tails will kill you in retaliation. You are no son of Minato and Kushina, Jiraiya shot back. You killed them. You are just a demon in human skin. Naruto chuckled, sending chills down the Sannin's, and everyone else's, spines. You really should rein in your temper, pervy sage, he replied. I could have you and the others killed back in Kimen and your heads sent back to Konoha. But you should be glad that I decided to cut some time for this little reunion. He began to leak potent killer intent as he continued to speak, addressing the Sannin. I'm sensing plenty of bad blood between the three of us. The memories are overwhelming, to tell you the truth. How many crimes have you committed against me and my family? Naruto began to count off their crimes on his fingers. First off, you went along with Sarutobi's scheme to make me into a weapon, instead of following my father's final wishes of having me seen as a hero. And what else? What else? Oh, that's right. The both of you and nearly all of Konohagakure no Sato favored a potential traitor and banished me for doing my job. His gaze fell upon Tsunade and Jiraiya. But the biggest crimes of all came from you two. You betrayed me, and by extension, betrayed my parents. Betray? Jiraiya repeated. Betray? You're wrong, Naruto. We didn't betray Minato and Kushina. We honored them. Every single day you suffered growing up in the Leaf, that was to honor their sacrifice they made in allowing you to live. You were nothing more than a mistake. An accident. Sensei lost his wife, I lost Minato and Tsunade lost her niece. You were a living reminder of what we had lost. For that, you had to pay. Funny, because I met them a couple of years back. You see, as a fail-safe, they left a portion of their souls inside the seal as a last resort should I reach 8 tails or decide to break the seal, Naruto retorted. He grinned evilly. They know about your crimes against me. They wanted to tell you that the both of you are in deep shit. You lie, Tsunade shouted. I never lie, hag, not when it comes to family or about my skills, Naruto replied. Whether you believe it or not is no consequence to me. The both of you betrayed my parents by choosing the leaf over my parents. You are not the son of the Yondaime, demon. An Anbu wearing a hawk mask, who had not been separated from the others, shouted. Thunk. A kunai pierced the porcelain skull. Blood spurted out from the wound as the man fell over, dead before he had hit the ground. Kurenai looked at her former student in horror, as it was Hinata who had tossed the kunai. The Empress consort reached behind her back and retrieved her dual kukri knives, readying herself for the battle that was to come. Nice shot, Naruto complimented his wife. He cracked his knuckles as the Imperial forces backed off, taking to the roofs, as they knew that this battle was going to be very wild. Don't worry about my soldiers who are surrounding you. They will not interfere in our little reunion. You have got to be out of your mind to think that the both of you can win against us, Jiraiya said. A banished genin and a missing nin against 2 of the Sannin and the best shinobi that Konoha has to offer? You forget who I am, Jiraiya, Naruto replied as he activated the Rinnegan. I am the unpredictable shinobi of Konoha. Oh, wait, I am not a shinobi of Konoha. Tsunade saw to that. He snapped his fingers and a shadow clone appeared. It was of Naruto, but it was anything but. As the direct descendant of the Six Paths Sage, Naruto wielded the Rinnegan, having unlocked it at the Valley of the End during his fight with Sasuke Uchiha. In his years in the West, Naruto had honed his skills under Kurama's tutelage. One signature jutsu of anyone using the Rinnegan was called the Six Paths Jutsu. In truth, there were 7 paths, the 7th being the outer path. Naruto, however, preferred using the other 6 paths, as the outer path pertained to life and death itself. Nagato had derived his own jutsu, the 6 paths of pain, from the original jutsu. Naruto was no different. Unlike Nagato, who used bodies and chakra receivers for his jutsu, Naruto preferred reinforced shadow clones. Unlike his standard Kage Bushin, these were reinforced, and would not dissipate when struck hard enough. They would only disperse upon Naruto's command. Naruto called his own variant of the 6 paths jutsu the Wrath of the 6 Paths. Naruto himself used the Diva path, incorporating it into his fighting style. The clone looked scary, even for the shinobi from Konoha. The reddish-blonde hair was spiked upwards. Dark markings were on his face, eyes, chest and arms. He was naked from the waist up, showing off a muscular body. He wore a tattered black hakama with a red flame pattern. A pair of greaves were on his shins, although one was covered by the hakama, while the other leg had tucked into the greave itself. Last, his arms had a metallic look to them, as if they were made of an indestructible metal. This was the strongest of Naruto's paths, the Asura path. Sasuke got back to his feet, and fell back to his knees. Whatever Naruto had hit him with had drained him of his chakra. Dobi. You killed Itachi. You took my rightful vengeance from me. Naruto responded by making a blah blah gesture with his hand. I will make you beg for mercy. Then I will take your throne. And your wife, the Uchiha finished, looking at Hinata. He had not forgotten that she nearly chopped off his balls back in Kimen. But from the look of things, she appeared to be even stronger than Sakura. The Dobi will pay, Sasuke thought darkly. Then I will take his wife as my prize. She will pay for what she tried to do to me. Yawn. You couldn't beat me at the Valley of the End. You couldn't beat me in T-Country. Right now, I'm 2 and -0 against you, Naruto replied. To the summoned path, he gave its marching orders. Keep Hitaki, Sarutobi, Guy and Yamato occupied. The Sannin are mine. The Anbu are expendable. Sir. Asura Naruto barked out and prepared to fight. Tsunade cracked her knuckles. I am going to enjoy humiliating you in front of your men, she said. You can try, Naruto retorted. I'm not the same Naruto Uzumaki you banished. Before anyone could make a move, however, a massive broadsword landed in between the group from Konoha and the Emperor and his wife, blade first. Kakashi's eyes went even wider in horror as he recognized the blade, as did Sasuke and Sakura. the Kabikirabocho, the head-chopping cleaver, and its owner stepped into view, standing behind Naruto and Hinata. One thought to have died while in Wave Country. Well, Zabuza drawled. If it isn't copycat Hitaki. I must have done something good in the past. Today is my lucky day. You should be dead. Sakura screeched. And yet, here I am, Zabuza said. He then addressed Naruto and Hinata. Far be it from me to interfere with both you and the Mrs.'s problems regarding Konoha, but Hitaki and I have unfinished business. And I've come to play, chief. Naruto knew what he wanted. Zabuza wanted Kakashi's head. Naruto had no problem with that, since he already beaten the crap out of his former sensei back in T-Country. Naruto had promised that Zabuza could kill his former sensei and he was a man of his word. He's all yours, Zabuza, Naruto said. The demon of Kimen grinned underneath his bandages as he strode forward and retrieved his sword. Stay out of this, Kakashi said as he pulled out a pair of chakra sabers, modeled after the white light chakra saber that both his father and himself once carried. This is my fight. Get them, Tsunade ordered. With that, what would become the Konoha Imperial conflict has begun. With Naruto, Jiraiya and Tsunade Senju were two of the three legendary Sannin, the former students of Hiruzen Sarutobi. He was the Mountain Toad Sage, Konoha's resident spymaster, self-proclaimed super pervert and the trainer of Minato Namikaze, Konoha's Yellow Flash. She was the Slug Princess, granddaughter and great-niece of Hashirama and Tobirama Senju, a legendary medic nin and healer, and one of the best kunoichi in the elemental countries, the third Senju to assume the post of Hokage. Their opponent was their godson, Tsunade's great-nephew, as Kushina Uzumaki was her niece. They had the chance to choose family over the village, the chance to honor Minato and Kushina's final request. In the end, they decided to follow the whims of their former sensei, Hiruzen Sarutobi in his plans to make Naruto Konoha's weapon. In the end, they decided to forsake their godson. And he was not happy. To say that their former godson was not very happy was saying that water country is a little wet. He was the son of the village hero and his wife, Konoha's Yellow Flash and Uzushiogakir's princess, also known as the Red Death. He was the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tails Demon Fox, the dead last who they had banished when it became clear that not only did Sarutobi's plans to condition him had failed, but the fact that he could not be controlled. Fate sure had a way to bite someone on the ass. Sasuke Uchiha had attempted to flee from Konoha, believing that the village was not helping him in his quest to kill Itachi. Naruto had been banished and later marked for death because he was viewed as a threat to the Leaf, Tsunade and the council using the convenient excuse of using excessive force. While Sasuke trained under Danzo, Naruto, and Hinata, had participated in a war which united the West under his rule 7 years earlier. While Sasuke gained the Meginkyu, Naruto had the most powerful of bloodlines, the Rinnegan. While Sasuke had everything given to him, Naruto had worked and fought long and hard for everything he had. The Emperor of the West faced off against the two remaining Sannin. Jiraiya and Tsunade assumed that if the Hunter Nin did not kill Naruto, then he would die without Konoha's protection. There was no love lost between Naruto and the two Sannin, and he made that point known by making the first move, forcing both Tsunade and Jiraiya on the offensive. In a burst of speed, the Genin turned Emperor was upon the two elder shinobi, punching and kicking. Naruto could have went for an easy win, but chose not to. He wanted to do this up close and personal. Tsunade and Jiraiya found out the hard way that this was not the same brat they had banished 7 years earlier. Far from it, Naruto was not holding back, as he tagged both Jiraiya and Tsunade with several brutal shots. Senshi had tutored Naruto not only in the art of combat, but in the art of tactics as well, which is why he was holding his own against the two Sannin. Know your enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles without disaster, Senshi had told him during his days as a warlord in the Unification Wars. Naruto knew how Tsunade and Jiraiya had fought. Tsunade had her super strength and the slug contract, while Jiraiya had the backing of the Toads and Sage mode. While the seals he had drawn up had done its job of nullifying the summoning jutsus, as well as his own, Naruto still had to contend with their other abilities. Sidestepping a Rasengan from Jiraiya, Naruto grabbed a handful of Jiraiya's hair and slammed him to the ground. Raising one foot to stomp the toad sage's head into a fine paste, he failed to notice Tsunade coming in from behind, preparing to cave in Naruto's head with a chakra-powered punch to the skull. Imagine her surprise that it was not Naruto's head she destroyed, but rather a wooden log. Naruto had avoided the blow, and had reappeared behind the Godem. Banshu Tenin. Tsunade felt herself being lifted off her feet and flung backwards towards Naruto, who caught her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Using the momentum from the Banshu Tenin, he arched his body backwards, planting Tsunade head first into the ground via a vicious belly-to-back waistlock suplex, i.e., a German suplex. Getting back to a vertical base, Naruto began to punch Tsunade in the face repeatedly. After the first two blows, Tsunade managed to get her hands up in order to block her face from Naruto's onslaught of overhead punches. A battle cry from overhead had drawn Naruto's attention from his attempts to punch in the Godeim's face. Looking up, he saw that Sasuke has now recovered. Chikudo in hand, he was looking to impale his former teammate. Naruto got out of the way, while Tsunade rolled out of the way, lest she would find herself impaled on Sasuke's weapon. Naruto faced off against the Uchiha Prince. Making Q spinning, Sasuke went on the offensive. Naruto pulled out a black Hiraishin kunai and parried and deflected the attacks from the Uchiha. A backhand followed by a double open palm strike to the breadbasket forced Sasuke back to the ground, just as Naruto's senses went haywire. Spinning around, he saw Tsunade lifted an overturned pillar, twice as big as he was in her hands, showing off her super strength. With a yell, she heaved it towards Naruto. The Emperor of the West responded by jumping up, running across the pillar before leaping off and kicking the Godem in the side of her head, knocking her down. Turning back towards Sasuke, he saw Jiraiya charging in instead, headbutting Naruto, forcing him back. At the same time, Sasuke, now on his feet, tried to outflank him from behind. Naruto saw him, grabbed the last Uchiha and used him as a shield as Jiraiya tried to punch him. Instead, the super pervert nailed Sasuke right in the skull. Naruto knocked Jiraiya away and flung Sasuke into Tsunade. Pulling out a scroll, Naruto opened it, stained some of his blood on it, thus activating the scroll. As Sasuke saw from his place on the ground, it was a storage scroll which contained Naruto's signature weapon, the Okatana. Think Virgil's Yamato from Devil May Cry. The Okatana he wielded was forged from the metal found inside a meteorite, the blade considered to be indestructible and incredibly sharp, as well as highly adaptable to chakra. Naruto had found it while returning from a campaign in the north. The sword was hidden inside a cave inside the Lodja Mountains. That and over 400 cases full of gold bars, which he used to fund his campaign of unification, and later used it to build the empire. Sasuke looked at the sword and retrieved his own Chokouto. "Nice sword," he said. "I'll take that off your hands as well. You are not worthy of having such a weapon in your possession. It would be better suited for me, Dobi." Naruto unsheathed his weapon. "You are not worthy of this blade, Uchiha. The sword recognizes me as its master. It will reject you." Jiraiya, now recovered, saw that Naruto was distracted with Sasuke and activated Sage Mode. Drawing upon his Senjutsu, he created an Odama Rasengan. With Sage Mode activated, it gave him a boost in speed, of which he used to charge at Naruto from behind. Naruto smirked as he sensed Jiraiya's attempt to kill him with his father's signature move. Not breaking eye contact with Sasuke, he uttered the words, "Imperial Style, Flash Step." Even with the Sharingan active, Sasuke could not follow Naruto's movements, or copy the technique, as he moved incredibly fast, as Jiraiya found out the hard way. Instead of impaling Naruto, Jiraiya found that his Rasengan had went through an after-image of his former godson. Naruto emerged out of the technique, on Jiraiya's side, sword raised over his head, his intentions made clear. Slash. Thump. Jiraiya's outstretched arm fell to the ground, the Odama Rasengan dispelling, its chakra depleted. Jiraiya's shock was short-lived, as Naruto kicked him in the breadbasket, knocking him back, blood erupting out of his stump like a geyser. Sasuke stood there, shock evident on his face as his brain processed what Naruto had done. "Jiraiya!" Tsunade shouted, having witnessed the amputation of the super pervert's arm by Naruto. Her face twisted into rage, she jumped to her feet, ready to attack yet again before Naruto stopped her. Senju. I would be more worried about your teammate rather than me, Naruto said, looking at Jiraiya. He's starting to go into shock from the blood loss. I'd give him 10-20 minutes tops before he bleeds out without any treatment, he said in a casual tone as if he was discussing the weather. So what's it going to be? Fight me and let Jiraiya bleed to death? Or don't fight me and save his life? Tsunade looked at Jiraiya, then back at Naruto. Gritting her teeth, she knew that this battle between herself and Jiraiya against Naruto was over, as he was right. She turned from the Emperor and began to save Jiraiya's life, lest he bled to death. She was out of this fight, as from the look of things, she had injured and dead shinobi on her hands. Turning back to Sasuke, who had quickly gotten over his shock of seeing one of the most powerful of the Sannin being crushed so easily, he brought his sword into a ready stance. Now, where were we? Sasuke smirked as he raised his Chikuto. I was going to show everyone here why I am an elite. I think Emperor of the West would suit me better than Adobe like you. You always loved the sound of your own voice, didn't you, Sasuke? Naruto said as they circled. You wouldn't last 5 minutes in the Empire. Face it, you are second best. That made Sasuke mad. You think that you're the only one who knows swordplay? I was taught by the best in Konoha. Naruto raised his sword in a formal salute, Dooku style. Then show me, Sasuke Uchiha. Let's see if the so-called Uchiha elite is a match for the Emperor of the Six Paths. With that, the duel was on. With Hinata. Aside from Kurenai and Cell 8, Sakura Haruno faced off against Hinata Hyuga. The shy, meek, insecure shinobi that had her ass handed to her by Neji was gone. In her place was a medic nin, forged in the fires of the Unification Wars. Sakura had kicked herself for not realizing it sooner, that the former heiress to the Hyuga was not only the Empress consort, but the head of the medic nin program. But now, as Sakura found out as she and Kurenai's team surrounded Hinata, Hinata was an unknown. She was not the insecure genin who got her ass handed to her by her elder cousin. She was Naruto's wife, which made her the Empress consort of the West. Whatever, Sakura snorted as she prepared for the inevitable fight. I've trained under Tsunade. I'm her true successor to becoming Sannin. Not that pig Ino. Hinata will soon see that fact firsthand. Sakura would find out just how wrong she was, as Hinata had brought her down in 10 hits. Think Jun's 10-hit combo, knocking her out cold, her Tenketsu points sealed. Kurenai gave the order to attack. Hinata calmly countered the attacks from her former teammates. Kurenai had went for an easy win, or so she had hoped, with her signature tree-binding death jutsu, only to find out that Hinata's enhanced Byakugan had neutralized her genjutsu. Shino attempted to use his Kikachu to drain her chakra and force Naruto to surrender, only to see Hinata incinerate the tornado of Kikachu with what she called the Deadly Tempest. Hinata then dropped Shino with several senbon needles laced with a slow-acting poison. The poison wasn't lethal, but was designed to attack the nervous system, meaning that Shino would be out of it for a while. And he will need plenty of time to recover. The battle was now 3-on-1, as the Inuzuka and his dog, now mimicking Kiba, and Kurenai fought Hinata. The Empress consort, as they had found out, had some new tricks, as what remained on Cell 8 learned the hard way. As Hinata was distracted with Kiba and Akamaru, Kurenai attacked from behind. Kunai in hand, she was ready to stab Hinata in the back. 8 trigrams. Kaden. Smack. Kurenai knew of the Hyuga's Kaden, or rotation. She knew that it was an defensive move, designed to deflect any type of projectiles, as she had seen Neji Hyuga use it against Naruto Uzumaki during the Chunin exams. Hinata, however, had made it into an offensive weapon. Her body covered from head to toe in chakra, Hinata spun on her heels, the waves of chakra emerging from her body. To Kurenai, it was as she had taken one of Tsunade's super punches to the face, as she found herself being propelled into the air. A volley of poison-laced senbon needles soon followed and met its target, leaving Kurenai in the same state as Shino. She fell back to the ground, having been taken out of the fight, leaving Kiba and Akamaru to face Hinata. With Hinata preoccupied with Kurenai, Kiba and Akamaru struck. Gatsuga. Hinata knew that Kiba wasn't above cheap shots when her back was turned. She also did the same while back in the West. They were ninja, after all. Knowing firsthand as to how the Gatsuga worked, Hinata performed a second rotation, knocking Kiba and Akamaru out of the move. knocking them both to the floor. Kiba and Akamaru got back to their feet, but noticed the ever-familiar 8 trigrams pattern that they were standing on, which meant one thing. "You're in my range," Kiba, Hinata confirmed. "Ah, crap," Kiba muttered. Moving faster than the normal eye can track, Hinata struck both Kiba and Akamaru. As she had used the 64 palms, she split it in half, striking Kiba 32 times, and Akamaru 32 times. As Kiba found out, judging from the sealed chakra points, the broken leg, fractured wrist and broken ribs, Hinata had upgraded the 64 palms so that she can tear muscle and break bones. Kiba knew that he was out of the fight. Akamaru would be spending some time with Hana at the kennels. But despite everything, he considered himself lucky that Hinata did not hate him that much. Worst case scenario was that she could have killed him and Akamaru. "You could have went easy on us," Kiba lamented. "I did. I didn't kill you," Hinata replied. "Despite you asking me out when we were kids, you were the nicest to me. This is your one-time deal, Inuzuka." With her former cell effectively neutralized, Hinata bowed out of the fight. With Kakashi and Zabuza. 7 years earlier, Zabuza Momochi was thought to have died in Wave Country. Of course, Kakashi had embellished the reports on what had happened during the mission. He said that Sasuke and Sakura had defended Tazuna, while he himself took out Zabuza. Naruto, being the dead last, did nothing. But he did not suspect that both Zabuza and his partner used a powered-up blood clone and fled to the west as the Mist Hunter ninjas closed in. In the 7 years since their last encounter, Zabuza had hooked up with a group of Mist refugees living in the southern region and later, hooked up with Naruto in his quest to unify the West. The price Zabuza asked for? Kakashi Hitaki's head. Aside from Kakashi, Zabuza had to deal with the 10 Anbu who had came to assist the Sharingan-wielding shinobi in killing the demon of Kimen. Or rather, the 5 Anbu, as Zabuza had cut them down without batting an eye, showing to Kakashi that Zabuza's skills has drastically improved in the years following his death, wielding his oversized sword as if it was like a normal katana. The remaining Anbu kept their distance as they watched Kakashi and Zabuza locked in a life-or-death duel. Kakashi had thought that without water for Zabuza to perform his jutsu, that this would be an easy match for him to win, and that Zabuza would die for real. But for someone who once preached, "Look underneath the underneath," he had underestimated the former Mist swordsman, as he found himself on the defensive against Zabuza's barrage of attacks. The fight between the two shinobi, plus 5 Anbu, had moved inside a building. Had Kakashi and the others were paying any attention, they would have noticed that the building in question was a damaged restaurant, a popular eatery for the shinobi and civilians in Suna. Perfect for Zabuza, as he could finally use his silent kill to get rid of the annoying Anbu that were keeping their distance. Once Kakashi and the Anbu were inside, Zabuza pulled out several smoke bombs and threw them at Kakashi and the Anbu. Once they were properly distracted, Zabuza retreated into the kitchen. Out in the dining area, in the midst of several coughing fits, Kakashi managed to get out. "Be on your guard." Zabuza could be anywhere. Zabuza's laughter echoed through the restaurant. "Got that right, Hitaki. I am everywhere and nowhere," his disembodied voice said. "The heart. The lungs. The spine. The brain. The liver. The kidneys. And the jugular. The body's 7 most vital spots. So many ways to kill, so little time. Be careful," Kakashi warned the Anbu with him. "He is the master of the silent kill." Too late, Zabuza's voice said, the smoke finally clearing. "Your friends are already dead." Kakashi looked around, and sure enough, the bodies of the 5 Anbu were sprawled all over the floor. Then Zabuza appeared from behind, hoping to take Kakashi's head on in one swing. Instead, the demon of Kimen ended up cleaving a log in two. Zabuza spun around and deflected several kunai flung at him from Kakashi. Soon, the two men had locked blades. "Come on, Hitaki," Zabuza said. "I just want to take a little off the top." The sword fight then resumed, with Zabuza beating down Kakashi's defenses. Kakashi managed to break the stalemate and fired off a great fireball jutsu, of which Zabuza managed to block, giving him enough time to unleash Kamui, with Asura Naruto, Yamato, Asuma, Maida Guy and 30 Anbu who were inside the impromptu arena charged towards Naruto. But Asura Naruto stood in their path. "I am going to enjoy this," Asura Naruto said as he prepared to attack. While 10 of them assisted Kakashi against Zabuza, the remaining 10 stood with their Anbu commander. "Spread out," Yamato shouted. "Give him multiple targets. He can't take us all on. I got him," Asuma shouted as he went through hand seals which Asura Naruto recognized. Snake, rat, snake, tiger, fire release, ash pile burning, he said before blowing a cloud of chakra-enhanced gunpowder at Asura Naruto, enveloping him. Asuma was the son of Hiruzen and Bawako Sarutobi, a former member of the 12 Guardian Ninja, one of Konoha's top shinobi. So he thought he would cinch an easy victory over what was the village dead last. Asuma had read the files on Naruto, as he was privy to his father's plans regarding the Uzumaki. He was one of many who had assaulted him as a child. The Shinobi Academy had sabotaged his training. Even Konohamaru's friendship to him was false, as it was an attempt for the Sandaime to have Naruto grow an attachment to the village. The only thing he had for him was that fact that he was the Jinchuriki and that he knew the shadow clones. As Asuma began to make the hand seals for a fire jutsu, the cloud of gunpowder suddenly blew back towards the Anbu and the Junin. Guy's eyes went wide as he saw a single sheet of paper fluttering in the black cloud. A sheet of paper with an intricate series of writing centering around a single word, explosive. "Move!" the spandex-wearing Junin shouted. Exploding tag. Asuma, Yamato, Guy and Yamato managed to get out of the way, along with 5 of the Anbu, just as the tag detonated, ending the lives of the other 5 Anbu in a violent explosion. Asura Naruto grinned. Apparently, Asuma had forgotten, or did not listen to Kakashi, that his primary element was wind, so blowing back the gunpowder was easy enough with a wind jutsu, followed by explosive tag, causing Asuma's initial plan to literally blow up in their face. Tantos drawn, the remaining 5 Anbu charged at Asura Naruto, who charged at the 5. As Asuma and the others watched in horror, Asura Naruto knocked the attacking Anbu as if they were not worth the effort, knocking them aside. Judging from the unnatural angles and the blood pooling from their bodies, it was a safe bet to say that they died instantly. Asuma produced his trench knives and focused his chakra into the blades. Guy removed the weights from his legs. Yamato attacked first with his Tanto, only to find that it did not affect Asura Naruto in the slightest. Asuma rushed in, hoping that the flying swallow would be enough to cause some damage onto Naruto. Asuma slashed at Asura Naruto, who blocked the attack with his forearm. Sparks kicked off from the metallic arms, but what shocked Asuma was that there was no damage. "That's impossible," Asuma thought. "The flying swallow can cut through steel." Asura Naruto looked amused as he cocked his head to the side. "Is that your best, Sarutobi?" he taunted. Asuma's response was to launch a punch to the face, of which Asura Naruto calmly caught with one hand. Guy took this moment to blindside Asura Naruto from the side and tried to bum rush in. Without breaking eye contact, Asura Naruto's hand lashed out and caught Guy's neck in an iron grip. Asura Naruto turned his head to Guy, now having lifted a foot off the ground. "Wait for your turn," he said, flinging him into Yamato, who tried to attack while he was distracted. The green beast of Konoha and the Mokouten-wielding Anbu captain crashed together in a heap, leaving Asura Naruto to deal with Asuma, having caught his other wrist when the Sandaime's son tried to punch him yet again. Asura Naruto looked at the trench knife, then back at a defiant Asuma. "I remember those knives," he mused. "I remembered that you tried to kill me with them when I was 6. You killed my mother, you demon bastard. I should have killed you when you were a baby." Asuma spat out. "Typical," Asura Naruto said, right before. Crunch. The sound of bones breaking was heard throughout Tsuna. Inside the cage tower, the Ino Shikacho trio and Cell 9 winced at the sound. Asuma screamed as Naruto crushed both his hand and the trench knife with it, rendering both his hand and the knife useless. Asura Naruto dropped Asuma to the ground, the latter's hand and trench knife mangled and bloodied. When he brought his other hand to bear, Naruto responded by snapping his arm at the elbow. As Asuma sank to his knees, Naruto's knee smashed into Asuma's face, breaking his nose and knocking him unconscious. "Damn you, you unyouthful demon!" Guy shouted as he unlocked 4 of the 8 gates. Asura Naruto kicked Asuma out of the way and beckoned Guy. "Come, so I can end you," he said. Like Asuma, Guy was also guilty of assaulting him in his youth. Asura Naruto charged at Guy. only to find himself encased in a tree, courtesy of Yamato and his tree-binding flourishing burial. Did that do it? Yamato whispered to himself, as he stood, knowing full well of the Mokouten's ability to rein in the power of a Biju. Did that stop him? From inside the tree, Asura Naruto gave his reply. No. It did not. Fire release, deadly tempest. With eyes filled with horror, Yamato and Guy watched as the massive tree was reduced to carbon from the inside out, followed by Asura Naruto charging out of the destroyed tree, which collapsed onto itself, his intended target now clear. Yamato was on the receiving end of a metallic fist crashing against his jaw, breaking it in 3 places, which was followed by a kick to the sternum which sent him crashing through a wall, putting him out of commission. Guy, now having unlocked 7 of the 8 gates, moved in to combat Asura Naruto. With Asuma and Yamato out of commission, it was now up to him to take down the demon. You will pay for your unyouthfulness, demon. Guy shouted as he knocked Asura Naruto into the air, high above Suna. As Guy launched himself after him, he followed through with the reverse lotus, unleashing a vicious barrage of punches and kicks. To anyone who had seen Guy and his former student perform the reverse lotus, the technique would be finished off with either Guy or Lee hitting their opponent with 1 fist and 1 foot, resulting in terminal velocity for the unfortunate person on the receiving end. That, however, was not going to happen. As Guy attempted to deal the final blow, Asura Naruto disappeared. And reappeared behind Guy. Hands interlocked and raised over his head, Asura Naruto dealt the green beast of Konoha a vicious hammer punch that sent him back to Suna, where he made an impact crater upon landing. But Asura Naruto was not finished just yet. Upon returning to the streets via Shunshin, Asura Naruto strode over to Guy, who was trying to get back to his feet, and failing, as unlocking the 7 gates had depleted most of his chakra. Standing over the fallen Guy, Asura Naruto looked down in triumph. Not so fun when the demon brat fights back, isn't it? He taunted as Guy tried to crawl away. You sent me to the hospital many times following you, using me as a punching bag for your Guken techniques. He raised 1 sandal-ed foot. You thought I had forgotten that, haven't you? Naruto. Please, show mercy, Guy pleaded. The gods show mercy. To those who tried to kill me as a child, I show none, Asura Naruto said, right before slamming it down onto Guy's spine. Guy screamed as he felt his spinal cord snap in several places. Your shinobi career is over, Maida Guy. See if you can get Tsunade to fix your back. Maida Guy whimpered as he tried to use his legs, but could not. The pain became too great, causing him to pass out. Looking at the carnage surrounding him, Asura Naruto felt a small measure of revenge. His battle was over. With a poof, he dispersed himself. With Naruto and Sasuke. Sasuke Uchiha was furious. He was an Uchiha, an elite, one of the strongest shinobi in Konoha. He wielded the Meginkyu Sharingan. He was trained by both Kakashi Hitaki and Danzo Shimura. All of Konoha had recognized his strength. Then there was his former teammate. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki, the demon of Konoha, the fox in human skin, the dead last. When Naruto was banished, he was pardoned. Despite his loss, and that he used the cursed seal, Sasuke had claimed his greatness, saying that Naruto would have lost were it not for the 9 tails in his body. But as Sasuke was given anything and everything he wanted, Naruto had to work hard for what he had. While Sasuke lived a relatively peaceful life as Konoha's prince, Naruto had fought in the West, making alliances and forging an empire under his rule, bringing about a peace that has not been seen since the time of his ancestor, the Six-Paths Sage. Simply put, Naruto had surpassed the self-proclaimed elite Uchiha. Naruto would admit that he had gotten lucky at the Valley of the End. But following their fight in T-Country, it had become clear that Naruto was the strongest of the two. And once Sasuke knew that the Emperor and the Dobi was one and the same, it had pretty much enraged him. Naruto had no problem mixing it up with his own blade, which was why he and the Uchiha were currently in the middle of a vicious sword duel. Naruto effectively neutralized both Jiraiya and Tsunade. Sharingan versus Rinnegan, the Emperor versus the Elite. How are you so damn strong? Sasuke snarled as he and Naruto locked blades. You can't be this strong, Dobi. I am an Uchiha. That strength should be mine. How is it you are so damn strong? Why can't my hatred defeat you? I earned my strength through hard work. Even now, I don't use my Rinnegan as a crutch, Naruto replied, right before headbutting the Uchiha, followed by a roundhouse to the jaw, knocking him to the ground. That is the difference between us. There is no hatred, only passion. Through passion, I find strength. Naruto continued to deflect and parry Sasuke's attacks as he continued to speak, reciting what Senshi had told him when he learned the ways of the samurai. Through strength, I gain knowledge. Through knowledge, comes serenity. He backhanded the Uchiha, busting his lip. There is no chaos within me, only harmony. Through harmony, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. You talk too damn much. Sasuke shouted. And you have learned nothing, Naruto replied as the battle intensified. The two former teammates turned enemies' flurry of swordplay, Sasuke's shinobi swordplay and Naruto's samurai and mist swordsmanship, intensified, until the two men ended up in a second blade lock. Your power. Give it to me, shouted the Uchiha prince, activating the Sharingan. Naruto broke off the blade lock with a headbutt to Sasuke, which was followed by him planting both feet into Sasuke's chest, knocking him backwards. Naruto sheathed his katana. You can't win, Sasuke, he said as his opponent stood up. You're better off just giving up. I have long since surpassed you. I proved that at the Valley of the End. I proved it again in T-Country. And I proved it here. I have nothing else to prove to you. Sasuke's eyes were closed. No, you're wrong, Dobi. Naruto had a pretty good idea as to what was going to happen next, as he watched bloody tears emerge from his eyes. He steeled himself for Sasuke's final trump card. Sasuke's eyes opened, revealing the Meginkyu Sharingan. Prove to me that you can die. Amaterasu, the strongest of the fire release jutsu and the strongest jutsu that an Uchiha can master. The flames of Amaterasu are said to be the fires of hell, hot as the sun, and said to be unavoidable. The flames capable of burning everything in its path, reducing whatever is caught in the flames to nothing but ash. Naruto's response to Sasuke's attack was to activate his Rinnegan, falling back into the Diva path. Shinra. Tensai. Sasuke's eyes showed complete shock as the black flames were extinguished. In a futile gesture, he raised his hands to block the incoming pressure wave, only to find himself once again on the receiving end of the Shinra Tensai, Naruto's jutsu flinging him back into a wall. Naruto was upon him in an instant. One punch to the sternum had caused Sasuke to cough up blood. This was followed by Naruto unloading a vicious barrage of punches into Sasuke's chest and torso, Sasuke's body jerking like a ragdoll with each blow. The coup de grace came with Naruto punching Sasuke through the wall. Looks like I win again, Naruto said smugly. Turning from the mangled Uchiha, Naruto walked back into the street. Then he stopped and turned around. Sasuke, despite being badly injured, stumbled out of the hole Naruto had made with his body. Dobi. We. Are not done yet. I'll give you this much. You're persistent, Naruto admitted, but the battle is over. You lost. The Sannin lost. It's over. Damn you. Damn you. Sasuke snarled as the cursed seal went into overdrive as he went into stage 2 of the cursed seal. His skin turned into a shade of dark gray, the lips a shade of blue. A black 4-point star-like mark appeared in between his eyes, above the bridge of his nose. His hair had gotten longer, ending at his waist. The eyes no longer had the Sharingan. The sclerae turned black, the irides now yellow. Last, were the large webbed hand-shaped wings on his back. Die Naruto! Sasuke screamed as he rose into the air, right before diving at Naruto, claws outstretched, ready to rip Naruto apart. Had Sasuke been paying any attention, he would have noticed the smirk on Naruto's face. Or the ball of chakra-infused lightning in his hand. Imperial style. Chidori. Sasuke's eyes bulged out of its sockets as Naruto nailed him with Kakashi's signature assassination jutsu. Payback for Sasuke doing the same to him. The Uchiha prince screamed as the electricity coursed through his body, playing haywire with his chakra and nervous systems. And leaving a fist-sized hole in his shoulder. The same spot where Sasuke had done to Naruto years earlier, not to mention giving the people watching this fight a good view of his skeleton. The force of the Chidori sent Sasuke sailing back to the mangled remains of Konoha's shinobi. Tsunade and Sakura had their hands full. Sakura wanted to go after Naruto, but Tsunade had ordered her to remain behind to help with the wounded. Asuma's hand was mangled, the other arm broken. Kurenai and Shino had been poisoned by Hinata, while Kiba and Akamaru had several broken bones. Guy's shinobi career was pretty much over, as his back was shattered. Yamato also had several broken bones, and Jiraiya's arm was severed. This battle was over. You used the Chidori on me back at the Valley of the End, Naruto said as Sasuke returned to normal. Consider us even. He turned from Tsunade and the others. Hinata, having watched the fight from the sidelines, walked over to greet her husband properly. However, in her rush, she did not see Kakashi emerge from the restaurant from where he was fighting Zabuza moments earlier, having won his battle. Seeing as how Naruto had won, Kakashi did the only thing he could do. He targeted Naruto's wife, Rikiri. Naruto saw that Kakashi had Hinata in his sights. If Konoha came out as the loser in this conflict, then the Emperor would be without his wife. Kakashi was fast, but Naruto was faster. He performed a flash step, closing the distance and shoving Hinata out of the way, just as Kakashi's Rikiri struck Naruto square in the chest. Sharingan spinning, Kakashi saw that he did not kill Hinata, but he did catch Naruto. Tsunade and Jiraiya, despite being badly injured, looked upon the scene with grim satisfaction. Perhaps now Minato and Kushina could finally rest in peace with their killer dead. With this act, the Empire would be robbed of their emperor. I got you, demon, Kakashi grated. I finally got you. However, the look on Naruto's face was not disbelief that Kakashi had tried to kill him, but rather amusement. As Naruto rushed to intercept Kakashi's Reikiri, he had activated the Preta path, which allowed him to take the full brunt of Kakashi's Rikiri without the effect of death. Kakashi's look of triumph turned to one of total shock as Naruto absorbed the jutsu. Even Tsunade and Jiraiya saw that Naruto was still alive, and not dead on his feet. It was because of this development that Kakashi did not notice his impending doom coming from behind. Thwack! Kakashi's eyes bulged as he felt pain. Looking down, he saw the familiar shape of a massive sword sticking a foot out of his chest. Kakashi's eyes widened in horror as he recognized the blade, stained with his blood. The Kabikirabocho. No! Zabuza whispered from behind as he yanked his blade out of Kakashi, having got the jump on Naruto's former sensei. I got you, Hitaki. Zabuza? How? Kakashi gasped. Water clone, was all that Zabuza had said. You really thought that you suckered me, didn't you? You forgot about my water clones. During the fight inside the restaurant, Zabuza had retreated into the kitchen, broken the kitchen's sink and used its water to create a reinforced water clone, of which he sent after Zabuza. Naruto had warned him of the Sharingan's abilities and now the demon of Kimen was thankful that he had listened to the Emperor's advice. All he had to do was wait for the perfect time to strike. And it came when Kakashi tried to kill Naruto with the Rikiri. Naruto and Hinata backed off several steps as Kakashi turned around, and looked into the face of the man thought to have been sent to the other dimension by the Kamui. Kakashi was looking into the face of his executioner. He was dead either way, as the wound Zabuza had delivered to him was mortal. For the crimes of betraying both the Uzumaki clan and my father, your sentence is death, Hitaki, Naruto coldly decreed. Turning to Kakashi, he gave his former sensei his parting words as Zabuza raised Kabikirabocho, savoring the look of horror mixed with fear as he knew what was coming. Death comes for us all, Hitaki. But when you die, something far worse awaits you. The blade of the head-chopping cleaver slashed its way through flesh, muscle and bone. Kakashi's head fell forward, while the body keeled over, the stump spilling blood in the street, the body twitching before finally going still. Kakashi Hitaki was dead, which is that you die with no honor, Naruto finished. Turning to Zabuza, he asked, happy now? Zabuza nodded. Very. Naruto turned to the injured Konoha shinobi. Sasuke had reverted back to human form following the Chidori to the chest and was being tended to by Sakura. Hinata made a signal, and the Imperial forces converged onto the scene, weapons drawn. Our battle is finished here, Naruto intoned. Take your wounded and leave my sight. Tsunade, now having stabilized Jiraiya, glared at her former godson. This isn't over, Naruto, shouted the Godem. This is nothing but petty hatred and vengeance on your end. For the moment, it is over, Naruto replied. You call this hatred, I call it retribution. You say this is vengeance? This is justice. But this is only the beginning, you hag. This is the beginning of the end for the leaf. Go back to Konoha and tell them that the dead last has returned. Tell them that as the yellow flash brought Konoha's rise to power, the Emperor of the Six Paths will bring about its reckoning. Either leave under your own power, or I can send you back in a box. Make your choice now. Tsunade wanted to fight to the bitter end, to go out fighting. But Jiraiya needed immediate medical attention and her Junin were grievously injured. The Imperial forces parted, making a path for the beaten and wounded Konoha shinobi to pass through with the help of the surviving Junin who were kept from the battle at Blade Point. Tsunade giving one final hate-filled glare at Naruto, now placing the cage-style hat back on his head and walking away from the battle, Hinata at his side. As Tsunade and the Konoha shinobi departed from Suna, a fourth party, unknown to either Konoha, Suna or the Imperial West, made his own escape. A white-haired shinobi with glasses. Otogakure, Rice Country, several days later. Inside his laboratory, Orochimaru was going over some notes in regards to his new test subjects when Kabuto came running in, out of breath. Without looking up from his notes, he said, "You're a week late, Kabuto. I hope you have a very good reason as to why you are behind schedule." The Snake Sage had ordered Kabuto to investigate the Akatsuki's movements, which had led Kabuto to Suna. There, disguised as a Suna Junin, Kabuto had witnessed the deaths of both Deidara and Sasori at the hands of the Emperor and Empress consort. But before Kabuto could leave, Suna was placed under martial law, the civilians evacuated to several fallback spots. Then the Akatsuki invaded, and Kabuto ended up fighting alongside Suna and the Imperial forces against the Six Paths and their 100,000 white Zetsu army. Kabuto had a first-hand look as to how the Imperial forces, shinobi and samurai, fight. He also got a good glimpse of how the Imperial Medic Corps went about their work. But most important, he knew the identities of the Emperor and his wife, and of their connection to Konoha. To Orochimaru, the Western Empire was an unknown to him. Upon hearing about the Pakara outpost in Wind Country 6 months earlier, he had sent Kabuto to investigate. What Kabuto had managed to find out was that a high-ranking official and his wife had conducted inspections on the Pakara branches in the elemental countries. Grudgingly, he had to admit that the Imperials were strong, especially the man in black's commander of his elite unit of bodyguards. "I know I am behind on my time," Kabuto panted. "There is a development. The Akatsuki has been destroyed." That caught Orochimaru's interest. "Explain." And Kabuto told him what had happened. He told his master about the Akatsuki invasion of Suna, of how Konan and the Six Paths led the surviving members of the Akatsuki and 100,000 white Zetsu clones against a joint force of Suna shinobi and 4 battalions of Imperial shinobi and samurai, and of how despite being outnumbered 2 to 1, the joint Suna Imperial forces were victorious. "There's more," Kabuto continued. "I know the identity of the Akatsuki mastermind. It was not Nagato as we originally expected. You knew him as Tobi, but in truth, his real name is Obito Uchiha." Orochimaru was surprised. So there were 2 Uchihas in the Akatsuki. Interesting. Continue. "The Akatsuki were killed to the last man," Kabuto said. "Hidan, Kazuku, Konan, Nagato, Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki. Obito had been captured alive and will face execution upon being sent to the Western Empire." One less headache for me, the Snake Sanin said. "Anything else?" Kabuto grinned. "Yes, the Emperor and his wife. I know who they are." Not wanting to keep his master in suspense, he told him. "The Emperor is the one who was banished for doing his job. The Emperor is Sasuke Uchiha's former teammate, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki." If Orochimaru was surprised before, this took the cake. "Are you telling me that the Emperor himself is Naruto Uzumaki? The dead last?" Kabuto nodded. His parents were Sarutobi's successor and the Red Death herself. That gave Orochimaru pause. As a former Konoha shinobi and 1/3 of the legendary Sannin, he knew of Tsunade's family history involving the Uzumaki and the Senju. Mito Uzumaki was wife to Hashirama Senju, and Tsunade was her granddaughter. Kushina Uzumaki was Tsunade's niece. Kabuto immediately caught on. And Naruto Uzumaki is Tsunade's great-nephew. Orochimaru cackled. Tsunade, in her infinite wisdom, banished her great-nephew. They screwed over the direct descendant of the Six Paths sage. So who is his wife? The former Hyuga heiress, Hinata Hyuga. From what I found out, she is the founder of the Western Empire's Imperial Medic program there. I hate to say it, but the Imperial program is a lot more advanced. And speaking of Tsunade, Orochimaru stopped laughing. What? She came to Suna hoping to get back on Gaara's good side in fighting with Suna, and to try and negotiate an alliance with the Emperor. Backing her was Jiraiya, several of their senior Junin and several of Naruto's former teammates, including Sasuke Uchiha. Uzumaki has gotten strong, even stronger than the Uchiha. His wife as well. They both had come a long way since Konoha. I bet that the reunion did not go as well, Orochimaru mused. That is an understatement, Kabuto replied. Tsunade had sicked Kakashi and the other Junin on the both of them. Out of everyone, Maida Guy, Asuma Sarutobi, Jiraiya, and Sasuke had it the worst. Sarutobi suffered a broken hand and a broken arm. Maida Guy. Well, his shinobi career is effectively over. Jiraiya lost his arm. And Sasuke, despite using the cursed seal, ended up with a Chidori in his chest. Uzumaki did all of that? Orochimaru asked. When Kabuto nodded, Orochimaru added as an afterthought, well, it's a good thing that he hates Konoha as much as I do. I actually feel a little better with him not agreeing to our alliance, not to mention losing to his captain of the guard. Kakashi Hitaki is dead, Kabuto reported. Naruto killed him? No. Zabuza Momichi, the demon of the mist, took his head. Orochimaru took a moment to take all the news in. This might work to our advantage. If there is one thing I can count on, is that dear Sasuke cannot stand the fact that someone like Naruto is stronger than him. I may be able to get my body just yet. Should I organize a retrieval team and intercept him from Tsunade and the others? No, I can wait a while longer. What about Naruto and the Western Empire? Orochimaru thought about it for a moment. It's clear that we are not on Naruto and Hinata's radar, and that they hate Konoha as much as we do. So we will leave them and their merchants alone for the time being. Send word to the Raikage. Uzumaki and the Western Empire is off limits. His smile grew sinister. But if Sasuke refuses to come to my side, I can always be an emperor. Konohagakure no Sato, at the same time. It had been midnight when Tsunade and the remains of her forces had returned to Konoha. Since that time, she, along with Shizune and Sakura, had been hard at work stabilizing the badly injured shinobi, even going as far as taking a soldier pill in order to keep working. As she had been busy with Jiraiya, Shizune and Sakura had been tasked along with the doctors in treating the injured shinobi, as well as compiling a casualty list of the Anbu who were killed. Konoha Hospital, dawn. Shizune and Sakura gave their reports to Tsunade, who had just finished treating Jiraiya. 16 Anbu dead, Sakura reported as she handed Tsunade a scroll. Here are their names. Kakashi Hitaki Kiya. Tsunade nodded grimly. She had brought 200 Junin-level shinobi with her to Suna, and yet when Naruto and Hinata had used their forces to block them from interfering at Blade and Jutsu Point. Seeing as how the Junin were outnumbered and outmatched, the remaining Junin had no choice but to comply. Tsunade found them outside Suna, and ordered them to help with the wounded and the dead, after demoting them to Chunin. They were not allowed to take Kakashi's body, as that was incinerated in one of the many pyres outside of Suna. And the others? Tsunade asked. Shizune went over her notes. Out of the group that was attacked by Uzumaki and his wife, Kurenai Sarutobi and Shino Aburame were affected by an unknown type of poison which makes the chakra and nervous systems go haywire. It's not lethal, but it is extremely effective. Were you able to get samples? Tsunade asked. Sakura shook her head. The poison works pretty fast. Despite taking blood samples from both Sarutobi and Aburame, there was no poison in their system. Either way, both of them will be out of action for about a week until they recover. Considering what has happened to the others, they got off lucky. And the others? First up is Maida Guy, Shizune reported. There was too much damage from where Uzumaki had crushed his spine. He won't be able to walk again. His shinobi career is finished. Tsunade nodded grimly. Continue. Asuma Sarutobi's right hand was crushed, along with his trench knife, which proved to be quite a challenge for the doctors to remove without having to remove the hand altogether, Shizune said. We were able to save his hand, but every bone in his finger has been broken. He also has a broken left arm at the elbow. He's looking at several months of recovery. Sakura continued after that. Kiba Inuzuka has suffered several broken bones, including those in his left leg, a broken radius and a broken wrist. Akamaru had been placed in the care of the Inuzuka vets. Yamato's jaw is broken in 3 places, and a fractured chest bone. Sasuke Uchiha was the worst off. A Chidori-sized hole in his chest. Half of the ribs are either broken or fractured, and the electricity from the jutsu has overloaded his nervous system and chakra reserves. How long will he be out? Tsunade asked. A month. Month and a half at the most, Sakura replied. What about you? Are you okay? That brat gave me a concussion when he suplexed me, Tsunade grated. Jiraiya. We couldn't save his arm. He died on me twice, but I managed to revive him. She sighed in frustration. How in the hell could he have gotten so powerful? Sensei made sure that we conditioned him, not to mention that we stunted his growth. He was always the unpredictable one, Sakura admitted. He beat Kiba and Neji in the exams. He should not have that kind of power, Sakura, Shizune said. Such power could be turned against us in the long run. If there is anything I know about the Uzumaki, is that they never forget who wrongs them. You forget that I am also of the Uzumaki, as Mito was my grandmother, Tsunade pointed out. But first and foremost, I am a Senju. Naruto has made it clear that he is a major threat to the Leaf. The bodies of Hitaki and the Anbu Slan has made that point very clear. Monitor Jiraiya and the others. I must tell the council that Uzumaki and the West is now a certified threat. Shizune and Sakura nodded as Tsunade vanished down the corridor. Underneath Konohagakure, hours later. Inside his inner sanctum, Danzo Shimura was furious. The Sharingan in his eye was spinning, his body leaking killer intent. The man known as the Darkness of Shinobi had just returned from an emergency council meeting, in which Tsunade had delivered some devastating news. Naruto Uzumaki was the Emperor of the West. The dead last, the Kyuubi brat, was the most powerful man on the Western continent. The same Naruto Uzumaki who had killed Hanmura and Kaharu over a year ago. The same Naruto Uzumaki who had rendered him helpless inside his own underground chambers. The same Naruto Uzumaki who can lead an army into Konoha and crush it under his heel. People change in the 7 years following their banishment, as Danzu's co-conspirators found out the hard way. The council had been in an uproar when the revelation was revealed. The civilian side of the council wanted Tsunade to declare war on the empire, or by extension, their allies in spring, water and wind. That idea was shot down by the clans, as they would be outnumbered 5-1. But Danzo still could not do anything, as Naruto still had the evidence pertaining to the stolen bloodlines he had on his person, lest he earned the wrath of the Godem and the last Uchiha. All he could do now is plan. Konohagakure no Sato, Fire Country. Jiraiya walked into the office. The one-armed Sanin's expression was grim, and has been grim since the fateful mission into Suna. The stump on where his arm used to be served as a reminder of what Naruto had become. Tsunade looked up from her paperwork. Well, did you hear anything? She demanded. Bad news all around, replied Jiraiya. From what my informants have told me, it appears that the brat is 2 steps ahead of us. The daimyos have long known that Naruto had taken the Jinchuriki. In fact, they allowed him to do so in exchange of a promise of non-aggression on his end. Which means that their respective cages can't do anything, Tsunade seethed. What about Naruto and Hinata's bingo book entries? Jiraiya shook his head. They were voided out. The Gaki and the Hyuga have been recognized as rulers of a sovereign nation, which as you know, carries automatic diplomatic immunity. Honestly, I never expected Naruto to be this cunning. Whatever he thinks of, he knows how to counterattack. He looked at his stump of an arm before turning back to his former teammate. But we still have one final card left to play, Jiraiya, Tsunade said. The Cage Summit. Think it will work? Jiraiya asked. Konoha is no longer the strongest of the shinobi villages, Tsunade said. Hitaki is dead, Guy is a cripple, and both Sarutobi and Yamato are in rehab. Aside from the fact that we lost 4 clans and Orochimaru is launching hit-and-run attacks over the border, thinning out our numbers even further, now that he has not to worry about the Akatsuki. You know what they are calling Naruto now, seeing as how he was responsible for the destruction of the Akatsuki. They are calling him the Akatsuki Killer. I don't care what they call him, Tsunade snapped. He is a threat to not only Konoha, but to all of Fire Country. I agree, Jiraiya said. Right now, my informants are looking into the Pakara merchant house branches in Wind, Wave, Tea and Spring. So far, all we got are trade routes. Nothing concrete. Where is the Cage Summit being held? Iron Country, Tsunade replied. General Mifune has agreed to play as host and mediator to the other cages. The meeting is to take place 3 weeks from now. You will remain here as acting cage in my stead while I take 2 bodyguards, as per the conditions set by Mifune. Who are you taking with you? Asked Jiraiya. Danzo has offered 2 of his private security corps to accompany me, but I seriously don't trust him. Kiba Inuzuka is still out on the inactive list, so I will take the Inuzuka matriarch and Sakura Haruno, as she was the least wounded shinobi out of the bunch. That brat has been lucky for a while now. But this time, his luck will run out once I turn the other cages against him. And the Jinchuriki under his control? Tsunade huffed. The tailed beasts were given to the other shinobi villages by my grandfather in order to keep the peace once they were tamed. By extension, the Jinchuriki are the property of the Senju clan, which means that they belong to me. That brat will have no other option but to surrender the Jinchuriki over to me, or else he will suffer the consequences. Jiraiya sighed. If this was the same brat that was a genin, then yeah, Naruto would not be a match for us. Now, he is an unknown, Tsunade. He is no longer the same brat that Sensei wanted to be Konoha's weapon. Because he is an unknown, that makes him even more dangerous. He gestured to his stump. Look what he did to me. Look what he did to Asuma, Guy and Yamato. Hitaki is dead, and he was one of our strongest shinobi. He could have killed us back in Suna, but chose not to, and it was not because that this was his former home. Are you saying that he spared all this for a specific reason? Tsunade asked. It looks that way, the one-armed sage replied. Maybe he wants us to suffer, or maybe he wants to destroy us himself. The kid was known to be unpredictable. He made the impossible possible. He beaten the Inuzuka heir and the Hyuga prodigy in the Chunin exams. Hell, from what Sasuke had told me, he unlocked the power of the Rinnegan during their first battle at the valley. The fact that he can fight without relying on it as a crutch makes him even more dangerous than Itachi, Obito and Sasuke combined. Jiraiya remembered Naruto's words that day in Suna after he and Hinata, and Zabuza, had came out on top following their confrontation. You call this hatred, I call it retribution. You say this is vengeance? This is justice. But this is only the beginning, you hag. This is the beginning of the end for the Leaf. Go back to Konoha and tell them that the dead last has returned. Tell them that as the yellow flash brought Konoha's rise to power, the Emperor of the Six Paths will bring about its reckoning. You think he could reach out to Orochimaru? Tsunade asked. Jiraiya shook his head. I don't think so. I think it's safe to say that he is no more of a fan of that snake than the both of us. In the meantime, I'm heading for the Fire Capital to update the Fire Daimyo on the situation. Afterward, I'm going to check on some of my contacts in Tanzuka. Tsunade nodded and dismissed Jiraiya. Imperial Complex, Palace Gardens. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze watched with a smile as Hinata and Tenten exchanged gossip whilst sitting in the shade of the sakura trees. Hizashi and Minato were in their respective laps, while Hiyashi and Neji fussed over the 2 children. He looks just like you, Mifune said, standing at the Emperor's side. Fatherhood suits you. I'm glad you think so, General, the Emperor replied. His expression had gotten serious as he turned to the old samurai. In spite of everything, this was not a social call. There is a reason why you decided to come to Kimin rather than contact my informants and spies in the east. Several days earlier, General Mifune and a group of bodyguards had visited Kimin. Senshi had received his longtime rival warmly, even going as far as to holding a feast in his rival's honor at his estate. On Friday, the day of the local tournaments, Senshi and Mifune had fought in the arena. Naruto, Hinata and the Imperial Council were among those in attendance. The battle had ended in a draw, but had left the old men in good spirits. This was Naruto's second encounter with the Iron Country chief. The first time he had met Mifune was through Eiji Kibagami, when Mifune visited Kimin the first time to sign a trade agreement, which allowed the empire to establish a Pakara outpost in Iron Country in exchange for reduced prices for their goods. The second time Mifune had came to the Imperial Complex, he had some information for the Emperor and Empress consort. Information regarding Konoha. Once again, your intuition proves to be correct, Mifune confirmed. Your actions in Suna towards your former village has caught the eye of the other villages. The Godem Hokage has called for a summit of the cages. I have been asked to host it, not to mention playing the role of mediator. And you agreed to do so. Yes. And it just so happens that the summit falls exactly on the same day as you and your wife are due for your annual inspection of the Pakara merchant branch in Iron Country, which is 1 month from now. Naruto nodded in understanding. Are you suggesting that I crash the summit, General? The old man smirked. And officially, yes. Officially. You know the rules. Interesting, Naruto said. You said that only 2 bodyguards can come with me? Mifune nodded. Looks like you can expect my wife and I to the summit, General, Naruto said. Thanks for the information. Inside the Imperial Palace, later. So what did Mifune wanted to talk with you about? Hinata asked as she put Minato to bed for the night. Their 1-year-old son had so much energy. And now, he was tucked out. Minato let out a cute little yawn before settling in for the night. Naruto watched as Hinata tended to their son. Mifune dropped some interesting news in regards to the East, he replied. The old hag has called for a cage summit. Senju plans on trying to get the cages on her side, Hinata said. Maybe even try and put pressure on us since they know we have the Jinchuriki here. I was thinking the same thing, Naruto said. I knew there was a reason why I married you. Hinata turned to her husband and smiled. Without me, you would get into trouble and be very miserable. So what do you plan on doing? She asked. The look on Naruto's face said it all. You're going to crash the summit, aren't you? Yup. Hinata pouted. I see that you are not going to change your mind. Well, since you're going, I might as well come along. There is this cheongsam that I want to wear for the occasion. What were the conditions that Mifune had set? 2 bodyguards can come along. So I will bring Mochizuki and Sana. Hinata nodded. Naruto. Back in Suna when we confronted Tsunade and the others. Why didn't you kill Sasuke? Why did you spare his life instead? I know he shoved a Chidori into your chest during the retrieval mission. But why not just kill him and be done with it? I think Yugito's training has rubbed off on you, Naruto mused as he walked over to the nightstand drawer. You should have been a Hellcat instead of a medic nin. Unlocking the seals which kept the drawer locked, he opened it and pulled out 2 black books. One containing the insignia of the leaf, the other containing the insignia of Danzu's root Anbu. Naruto began to explain. The first time I returned to the leaf, I assassinated Hanmura and Kaharu. I got the first book from Danzo detailing his crimes he had done in the name of the leaf. The second book, I stole from the Hokage's office when I snuck back in to retrieve my parents' ashes. After spiking her sake with laxatives. Blowing up the Hokage monument was a bonus. Hinata began to leaf through the pages of the Hokage Black Book. And when were you going to tell me about this? She asked. I did tell you, remember? Sarutobi and those 2 idiot students of his have plenty of secrets. Oh, Hinata continued to flip through the pages. Then she stopped. Son of a bitch. Naruto knew that tone in her voice in an instant. If Hinata spoke in a tone that showed she was pissed, violence and in the most extreme cases, death would most likely ensue. Hinata looked angry, and she had a very good reason why. Sarutobi, Jiraiya and those 2 relics had a hand in my attempted kidnapping. The incident with Kumo? Hinata nodded. Sarutobi tried to sell me out. What Hinata was speaking of was the incident known as the Hyuga affair. Hinata had nearly been kidnapped by the Kumo ambassador, had it not been for her father, who had killed the kidnapper. Kumo had threatened war in retaliation, unless Konoha surrendered the Hyuga clan head. Hizashi had went in Hiyoshi's place, as the caged bird seal would rob Kumo of learning of the Byakugan, and because he was Hiyoshi's twin brother so Kumo did not know the difference. Well, it's a good thing that he died while fighting Orochimaru, didn't he? Naruto said as he looked through Danzu's black book. You still haven't answered my question about Sasuke, Hinata said. Turn to page 49. Hinata did as she was asked. Operation Downfall. The Uchiha was planning a coup d'état, Naruto said as Hinata had read the blackout orders. Sarutobi, Danzo, those 2 old bastards and Jiraiya had ordered Itachi to butcher the entire clan, save for Sasuke. What they don't know is that Obito had helped in the slaughter. The reason why Sasuke is still alive is simple, Konoha's destruction will not come from us. It's going to come from Sasuke, Hinata finished. By having Konoha and Fire Country focus their attention on me, They will not suspect the Uchiha of stabbing them in the back. Konoha knows that the Imperial Nation is a threat to them. Danzo tried to assassinate us, and failed. Tsunade lost face when she attacked us in Suna. Orochimaru will do his part in keeping pressure on Konoha. More than likely, he knows about the both of us, but since we hate Konoha as much as he does, he won't do anything that would cause us to turn our attention to him. Naruto sat down beside Hinata. Even back when we were under Hitaki, Sasuke sees himself as an elite because of his clan name and because of his Sharingan. What he values is power and influence. If Konoha does not give him what he wants, or if it appears to be weak, he will go elsewhere for the power that he thinks he so rightfully deserves. And seeing as how I, the former dead last of the cell, is clearly stronger than he is, that is something that will eat at him. Which is why he tried to go to Orochimaru the first time, Hinata said. When Naruto nodded, Hinata continued. And if he tries to defect to Orochimaru a second time? Naruto grinned. This time, he would most likely succeed. All Sasuke needs is a push in the right direction. Which is where these two black books come in. But I don't plan on driving him to the snake just yet. That won't happen until after the Imperial coup might in 2 months' time. I will pit Sasuke against one of the 4 Devas, preferably against Rasu. Once Sasuke finds out that he is not as powerful as he fancies himself to be. Naruto gestured to the 2 books. He will find out the truth once I plant these inside his home. That Konoha has been using him as they once tried with me. He will run to Orochimaru. Only this time, there will be no retrieval team to stop him, as Orochimaru won't make the same mistake twice, Hinata said. Sasuke will flee to Orochimaru, and seeing as how Konoha was responsible for the destruction of his clan, he will bring down hell upon the leaf. She chuckled dryly. And we will watch the festivities from a safe distance, Naruto said. All we need is the popcorn. And regardless of how the battle will play out, be it Konoha ekes out a victory or the snake destroys Konoha, we move in and finish the leaf off once and for all. What about the Sannin? Had they honored my parents' final wishes instead of betraying me, then this would not have gone as far as it had did, her husband replied. Their time is over and they don't realize it. Elsewhere in the east, the aforementioned Sannin and Sasuke Uchiha sneezed. At the same time, the ominous feeling of dread had crept up their spines, as if the death god himself had sealed their fates. Iron Country. Iron Country was the only country in the elemental countries which had highly trained samurai instead of shinobi. The samurai there were descended from samurai who had emigrated from the war-torn west in search of a more peaceful life. The other shinobi villages had left it alone, as the samurai were not only tough, but Iron Country had a long-standing policy in not to interfere in the other country's affairs. Given its neutrality, the country was a perfect choice to host the Cage Summit. The location of the summit was held inside the Iron Capital, with General Mifune playing as host and mediator. As expected, the major players in the elemental countries were present for the meeting. From Mist, Godem Mizukage Maid Terumi and her bodyguards, Ao and Chojuro. From Iwa, Sandame Tsuchikage Onoki of both Scales and his bodyguards, his granddaughter Kuritsuchi and Akatsuchi. From Konoha, Godem Hokage Tsunade Senju and her bodyguards, Zoom Inuzuka and Sakura Haruno. From Kumo, Godem Reikage, i.e., puppet ruler, Ohatsu Katsuragi and her bodyguards, which happened to be Oto Shinobi disguised as Kumo Junin. From Suna, Godem Kasekage Gaara of the Sands and his bodyguards, and siblings, Tamari and Kankuro. Also present, was the Emperor and Empress consort of the Imperial Nation. Pakara Merchant House, Iron Country Branch. The Pakara Merchant House's Iron Branch was a walled compound located several blocks away from where the Cage Summit meeting was being held. Eiji Kibagami was instrumental in getting a trading alliance with Iron Country, as he had relatives living there. Inside one of the offices within the compound, Naruto and Hinata Namikaze were finishing up their preparations. As this was a formal affair, Naruto and Hinata were dressed for the occasion. As Naruto had long since stopped wearing orange, his attire was mostly black, having embraced the Western style of clothing, vest, pants and boots. The tight-collared shirt was white. His long coat hung on a rack, as did the black cage-style hat. Hinata was also finishing her own preparations. She was dressed in a red cheongsam dress with a black lotus pattern, which showed off her curvaceous figure. A red rose was tucked inside her hair. She wore no makeup, which enhanced her beauty. The couple, along with their elite guard, had arrived in Iron Country via the Demon's Gate hours before the cages were due to arrive, as there was no place for the Imperial Nation's airship to land. Following the inspection of the Pakara compound, Naruto and Hinata made their preparations to crash the cage summit. Hinata turned to her husband, who had just slipped on his long coat. "Ready?" Naruto nodded as he placed the cage-style hat on his head. "Ready." The cage summit. A massive council chamber, consisting of a round table in the center of the room. Iron samurai guarded the room, making sure that everything remained civil between the 5 cages and their respective bodyguards. From Mifune's left, going clockwise, sat Godem Mizukage Terumi, Godem Hokage Senju, Sandame Tsuchikage Onoki, Godem Kazakage Gara of the Sand, and last, Godem Reikage Katsuragi. Flanking them were their respective bodyguards. There was a space that was directly opposite of Tsunade which was empty. "For those of you who do not know who I am," Mifune began, "I am Mifune, leader of Iron Country, and general of the samurai forces here. On behalf of the people of Iron Country, I welcome you to my home. I will be acting as mediator for this meeting of the cages." He turned to Tsunade. "Godem Hokage, you have the floor." "Thank you, General," Tsunade said. Clearing her throat, she began to speak. "Fellow cages. The threat of the Akatsuki has passed with its destruction. But there is a new threat on the rise. A threat that can not only destabilize the fragile balance of the elemental countries, but can destroy them." Gaara's eyes narrowed, as did Mei's. They knew exactly what the Godem was speaking of. "I am talking about the unified Western Empire and its so-called leaders, Naruto Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga," Tsunade finished. "From what Jiraiya has told me following his visit to the West, the Imperial Nation's military might is far more stronger than those of our villages combined. What the East has seen with the destruction of the Akatsuki was nothing but a sample of what Uzumaki can muster." "I disagree with your claims, Lady Hokage," Gaara said, coming to the defense of his friend. "Emperor Namikaze is not a threat to any one of us here. Your opinion of him has been biased ever since the day he was born. Your actions in banishing him following the retrieval mission of the Uchiha has shown that." "Indeed," Onoki said, knowing full well that the Emperor was the son of the infamous Yellow Flash, as well as of the circumstances surrounding Uzumaki's banishment. "Despite the stone's issues with the Yellow Flash, it makes no sense in banishing a genin when he was successful in completing his mission, while giving a pardon to the genin who attempted to defect to a potential traitor. Had this taken place in Iwa, the Uchiha runt would have been executed, Sharingan be damned. Second, had Uzumaki had any ill will towards any of us," Mei continued, "then he would have invaded the East a long time ago. I agree with my Suna counterpart. Your opinion of him is flawed. His exploits in the East are of public knowledge. It was through him that the Leaf gained its many alliances. Ironic as it by the Uchiha that they were taken away." Tsunade gritted her teeth as she balled her hands into fists. That part was true. In any event, Katsuragi, from what I have observed, Uzumaki is not a threat to any of us. We all have heard of the reports coming from Suna. Yourself, Jiraiya, and several high-ranking shinobi confronted and fought the Emperor and Empress in the village streets. Onoki cackled. "Oh, I would give anything to have been there. The look on your faces when the gaki that you, Jiraiya and all of Konoha had written off as worthless must have been priceless. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki, the dead last, now discovered to be the Emperor of the West. Add the fact that both he and his wife had humbled you and your shinobi are a bonus." "Humbled?" Tsunade repeated, rising from her seat. "Humbled? 16 of my Anbu are dead. Kakashi Hitaki, the last of the Yondaime's students, is dead. Jiraiya, my teammate, lost his arm at his hands. One of my shinobi had his back broken in such a way that not even I could fix it. And there are the wounded. You want to pick a fight with me, Senju?" Onoki taunted, hopping to his feet. "You really shouldn't. Konoha is not looking very good now. You're no longer the strongest of the villages. Not after your actions in Suna, which had left a black eye upon the Leaf." Mifune cleared his throat, getting the attention of the 2 cages. His silent glare told them to stand down, of which the Sandame and the Godem did. Behind Onoki, Kuritsuchi and Akatsuchi grinned. "Personally, I would rather fight that brat who calls himself Emperor, instead of you, Tsunade said. He is nothing without that title, or the Rinnegan. I underestimated him the last time. It will not happen again. You really should be careful what you wish for, Godem Hokage, a voice said from the door, causing everyone to turn to the now open doors. It may just backfire on you in the most extreme way. Stepping into the room, Longcoat fluttering behind him, was the Emperor and Empress of the Imperial Nation. Behind them were two of their bodyguards. A woman who was dressed similar to Tsunade with tattoos and a Siseibushi-level Onabugeisha identified by her khaki flak vest as a member of the Hellcats. Mifune rose from his chair. Emperor Namikaze. Empress Namikaze. You honor my home with your presence. May I ask what you and your wife are doing here? He asked, already knowing the answer to the question. Hinata and I are here on the tail end of my inspection tour of the Pakara merchant houses in the east, Naruto explained smoothly. As per to imperial tradition, we have come to pay our respects to the current ruler of the country. He looked around the room, studying the 5 cages and their bodyguards. It appears that my wife and I have come at an unexpected time. Quite the contrary, Mifune said. The topic was about the both of you and the Western Empire. Yes, Emperor, Tsunade said, pronouncing Naruto's title with sarcasm. We have some questions we would like answered. Naruto looked at his wife, who nodded. Of course, he said. There's nothing wrong with a small chat. Very good for the soul. 2 more chairs were brought in and placed beside the Godem Raikage. Naruto and Hinata walked over and took their seats, Benazato and Sana standing behind the Emperor and Empress. Naruto removed his hat and placed it on the table, as with the other cages. Tsunade was doing her very best not to try and knock his head off, but she managed to keep her composure. For those of you who don't know who I am, or to those who are meeting me for the first time, Naruto began. I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, former genin of Konohagakure no Sato, now the first sovereign emperor of the unified Western Empire. And I am his wife, Hinata continued. Empress consort Hinata Hyuga Namikaze. So, it's true what the Godem Hokage says about you, isn't it? Onoki asked. You are the son of Minato Namikaze? I am, Naruto replied. I am the legitimate heir of Minato Namikaze and his wife, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. He gestured to the 2 women behind him. The women accompanying us are part of our elite guard. Major Benazato Mochizuki and Sana Senshi. What you may have heard about the Western Empire is more than likely true. Yes, I was banished by the Godem Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato on trumped-up charges solely because I am the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox. Hinata came with me at her father's behest, in order to avoid being branded with the caged bird seal. Naruto could not reveal his trump card just yet, saying that he was the former Jinchuriki of Kurama. Not yet. For 5 minutes, Naruto and Hinata had told the meeting of the cages of his trials and tribulations in the West. First, he had killed Rokubungi Oda, said to be the strongest of the warlords. He told them of the 2 years he had spent as a warlord, unifying the continent, and Hinata laying the foundation of what would be the Imperial Medic Program, which trained shinobi and samurai. He told them that following the unification wars, he and Hinata were the undisputed rulers of the West. That's it, Naruto finished. Hinata and I came from nothing. We clawed our way to the top of the mountain. The people recognized the both of us as the Emperor and Empress of the West. Clap, 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 clap. Everyone turned to Tsunade. She was clapping sarcastically, while Sume and Sakura had amused looks on their faces. Bravo! You can spin a wonderful story, brat. I think Jiraiya could use that in his next book. Naruto leaned back in his seat and chuckled. You of all people know that I never lie about my skills, hag. It just burns at you, doesn't it? To see Sarutobi's plans into conditioning me into being Konoha's perfect weapon backfire? That when you could not control me, you banished me and sent the Anbu after me? How does it feel, knowing that Sarutobi is turning over in his grave at seeing his plans unfulfilled? Be careful, Uzumaki, Tsunade warned, rising from her seat. I can just as easily crush you like a bug. You tried, remember? Naruto replied. And what was the end result? Oh, that's right. He ticked off on his fingers. 16 Anbu dead, 3 maimed Junin, 1 Sanin missing an arm, and Kakashi Hitaki dead. And that was me and Hinata without trying. I am not the same Gaki you once knew, Tsunade. You and all of Konoha should do well to remember that. The Akatsuki found out the hard way. You should be thanking me, Senju, for eliminating the Akatsuki. Wiping them out was probably the most important event in the history of the elemental countries. And what is for you? Onoki asked. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Tuesday. Onoki chuckled. I like this kid. Granted that his father was the Yellow Flash, the kid got spirit. And Iwa respects strength and honor. That, and the Western herbal tea your merchants sell has done wonders for my bad back. We are getting off subject here, Tsunade said. There is still the matter of the Jinchuriki. She leveled her gaze upon Naruto. Do you not deny that you have all of the Jinchuriki in your possession? No, I will not deny it, Naruto said. With the exception of General Ni and the Godem case cage, I admit that I retrieved the Jinchuriki from here, and offered them asylum within the Empire. Before Tsunade could say anything, Naruto continued. I did this with the blessings and consent of the daimyos of earth, lightning and water, in exchange for a pledge of non-aggression on my end, and with me promising never to unleash the power of the Jinchuriki upon their countries and villages. By taking the Jinchuriki out of the picture, the playing field of the elemental countries has been reset. And yet, you used them in the war against the Akatsuki, Sakura pointed out. You are a liar and a hypocrite. Naruto snapped his gaze upon his former teammate. I'm sorry, was I talking to you? Until I address you, Haruno, shut that hole between your nose and chin and reattach your lips to Senju's ass. Turning back to the assembled cages, he addressed them, ignoring that Tsume was holding Sakura back. Yes, I had the Jinchuriki fight in the war with the Akatsuki, but I honored my promise not to unleash them upon the villages or the elemental countries. I asked them if they wanted some payback towards the Akatsuki and they agreed to come along. The daimyos may have agreed to your requests about the Jinchuriki, but the fire daimyo didn't. And neither did I, Tsunade said. The tailed beasts, and by extension the Jinchuriki, are the property of the Senju clan. My grandfather gave the Biju to the other shinobi villages. As the granddaughter of Hashirama Senju, you will hand over the Biju to me. And since you hold the strongest of the Biju, I demand that you abdicate your throne and hand yourself over to face the justice of the leaf. Let me think about that. No, Naruto replied. You dare refuse me? Tsunade snarled. A Senju, and descendant of the Six Paths? I do. You seem to forget your history. The Uzumaki are the direct descendants of the Six Paths sage, the original Jinchuriki to the 10 tails. He split the power of the Biju into 9 beasts. You claim that just because of your family name, that the Jinchuriki and by extension, Gaara and myself, are the property of the leaf. In any case, the Biju are not your property. The Jinchuriki are under my protection. The Senju and the Uchiha are not blood relatives to the Six Paths. He adopted them and trained them, but they are not of his blood. Onoki, Mei, Mifune and Katsuragi watched this soap opera play out between the Emperor and the Godem Hokage. I don't care what you think. The Jinchuriki are the property of the Senju clan. This is not open for discussion. You will hand them over to me now. Naruto's next question caught Tsunade off guard. Did you see my mother the same way? What? Tsunade stuttered. It's a simple question. You of all people know that my mother was the Jinchuriki to the fox, as was your grandmother was before her, Naruto continued. You blamed me for her death, when it was clear that it was Obito Uchiha who was responsible. Did you see my mother, your niece, as property to the Senju, despite her status? Answer the question, Senju. I don't have to answer that, Tsunade shot back. Of course you do, Naruto replied, his voice ice cold. Since as you claim that the Jinchuriki are the property of the Senju, of which I, too am a member of since Mito Uzumaki is a member of the Uzumaki clan. Did you see my mother as property of the leaf, despite her being the daimyo of Whirlpool, as well as your niece? Answer me, Senju. The tension in the room was thick. The other 4 cages watched as the standoff between the Godem Hokage and the Emperor of the West stared the other down. I see the answer in your eyes, Senju. Despite the fact that my mother was the ruler of Whirlpool. Despite the fact you saw her as the daughter you never had. You did see her as property, Naruto said. So what if I did? Tsunade snarled. Kushina was like a daughter to me, yes, I admit. But she held the power of the Kyuubi. A power that belonged to the leaf. To my clan, not yours. Temper, Senju, Naruto chided. You really shouldn't get your blood pressure up at your age. But if you continue down this road, thinking that Konoha is still the strongest of the shinobi villages when it is not, seeing as how 4 of its clans and over 200 Junin are under my protection, you are sadly mistaken. The only reason why I haven't decided to wipe the leaf from the map is because seeing you and the village suffer because of your actions amuse me. But make no mistake, Senju. You, nor Konoha, nor the Fire Daimyo are in no position to make demands of myself or of the imperial nation. He slowly rose from his chair, directing his killer intent at Tsunade and her bodyguards, his eyes shimmering into the Rinnegan, his voice becoming ice cold. If you wish to go to war, I'll be more than happy to oblige you. You are already on thin ice with me for betraying not only my parents, but also the Uzumaki clan. If you declare war on the Empire out of some misguided attempt at revenge, Gaara's desert burial will look merciful compared to what the imperial nation can do. You go to war with me, I guarantee that Konohagakure will be nothing more than a memory. The leaf will be nothing more but a rumor. It will have never existed. Yow, scary, Gaara thought. Even Shukaku agreed with his tenant. This one agrees. Note to self. Do not piss the emperor off, Onoki and Kuritsuchi both thought at the same time. Onoki was glad that he had let the old hatred of the Yondaime die. It was known that his son was the leader of the West, and that he hated Konoha with a passion. So long as the West honored the non-aggression pact, then Iway had no problem with the empire. Lord Orochimaru will have to be notified of this, Katsuragi thought. Impressive, Namikaze, Mei thought. His threat made clear, Naruto's eyes went back to normal. Retrieving his hat, he placed it on his head as Hinata stood up. Turning to Mifune, he said, General Mifune, on behalf of the unified West, we thank you for your hospitality. Mifune nodded, giving one more glare to Tsunade and her bodyguards. The imperial group strode to the door, but stopped. Oh, I almost forgot, Naruto said, turning around. He turned to Sana, and nodded. Sana produced 6 scrolls and tossed them to each of the cages, who caught them. What's this? Onoki asked, not daring to open the scroll. In 2 months, the Unification Festival will take place, Naruto explained. The highlight of the festival is the Imperial Kumite, which is held in South Ichiyama. What you hold in your hands is an invitation to the tournament. No cage can participate. Bring 4 of your strongest shinobi and samurai to compete. The winner of the tournament will earn 20 million ryo for their respective village and the title of champion. That invite you hold in your hands also promises safe conduct through the imperial nation. I'll be there, Tsunade said. Just to see the look on your face when we show that the will of fire is strong enough to crush any and all challengers. Including your own fighters. The will of fire. Naruto repeated. Konoha's will of fire no longer burns. It has been extinguished by your hypocrisy, your fear, your bigotry, and your hatred. Tell me something, Senju. Did the leaf ever gain back any of those alliances that I earned for them during my time as a genin? Tsunade's response was to glare at Naruto. Didn't think so, Naruto said, looking smug. Half of the people in the East don't trust you, or Konoha, and for good reason. It would be bad for business to hire a village known for rewarding potential traitors and punishing heroes. Hopefully, I will see you all in South Ichiyama. The other cages nodded and the Imperial group walked out of the meeting chambers. Naruto's smug grin never leaving his face. Konoha's downfall has begun. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.